I don't know what's going on with this. Aaron, what's going on with this?
What?
Why do I sound so weird? I don't know what's happening.
Well,
I gotta up. Okay, I think we're good.
okay.
I think we did that.
I think you should have went a little further.
Okay, I'm ready to go. Let's do this.
No, take it back. Welcome, everybody, to Badonkagonk. We're back, actually not too many weeks after our last Badonkagonk.
You might say it's scary how quick we came back.
It is.
It's scary.
October scary. It's been. I'm excited for this one because we have a book that we're gonna talk about, which was Death Troopers.
Our first Legends book.
It's the first time, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's my first Legends book because I think I at least did the first Bane book.
Yeah.
Which that's Legends now,
That's
right?
a good one.
I at least did that one.
You did the Revan book.
And yeah, Revan, I read that one. I like that one too. So I've had a couple, but I haven't read a Legends book in a long time.
Yeah.
So, and then what was that old series with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon? Jedi Apprentice, I think is what it's called. I used to read those too.
By Jude Watson. Yeah, those were good too.
But no, this is cool. I read this one differently, I think, too, where it wasn't like a what's the connections to other canon things. I was just kind of like, I'm just gonna read this.
Just this alone.
Yeah, and I wasn't worrying about anything else.
Yeah.
So I was like, it was kind of cool just to do that. So
there's a lot of things to look forward to in today's Badonkagonk, and it's gonna be scary. We're gonna be talking about Death Troopers later. We're gonna be talking about the scariest Star Wars moments.
Yay!
That's gonna be scary. We're gonna be taking some of your questions, and sometimes your questions are so out there that it can be scary. But we're gonna start
something scary
with the trailer. Aaron, a trailer reaction, because how terrifying would it be to have Star Wars without John Williams?
Oh, okay, yeah, that
would be
sounds
terrible,
that
right?
sounds scary. It sounds like an interesting experiment, though.
It would be.
Let me watch Star Wars with no music, or
that's what John Williams does, and then he gives us what he hears.
Sure, yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah,
never thought about it that way. Where
right?
I've always wondered, like, do they get to watch and
Exactly.
then make music, or do they make music and you edit to it?
I
mean,
I love what music can do to the visual. You know, it's almost like counterintuitive. It's like you don't think that it's affecting you. You think it's just I'm watching something, but music can just completely change the tone of something just by hearing it. And I just love that John Williams is just such an integral part of so many things I love. That when this trailer came out, I was like, I want to watch this, and I think the best place is on Badonkagonk.
All right, so we got a trailer of Star Wars with no music.
Yep,
that's what this is.
I'm pretty sure isn't that scary to think about?
Sounds scary.
Well, even scarier is the unknown. You have no idea what this is going to be about. Gonk, hit it.
Hit the gong.
The greatest way to demonstrate how much music affects movies, play it absolutely with no music at all. And then go back and do the whole scene again with all the cues. You'll recognize the absolute brilliance of John Williams.
Huh.
Yeah.
The minute John raises his baton and plays the first theme,
Oh, dude.
you just go, oh my God.
Buppity-buppity.
Here's another one.
Another one. Look at him.
Star Wars basically would not be Star Wars without Johnny Williams' music.
Only he can call him Johnny.
People say, how do you do so much work? I was filled with the love of music and the pleasure of doing it with great musicians.
After
That's
he does
great.
music for my movie, I start to see my movie in his way.
I love that so much.
The first thing I played for Steven on this piano was this. And I played that for him. He said, what is that? You know, what are you going to do with it?
That's for your music, for your movie.
Yeah.
He's
I love
somebody
the song.
Who learned
Yeah.
his skills painstakingly. I think people should see somebody who has worked alone in a room for 60 plus years. There's a lot of sacrifices, and I think that he
Look how old,
expresses
like,
himself through
young
music.
he was there. He still looked older.
Music for a musician is like breathing. It supports us, sustains us, gives us energy.
The fact that the same man wrote music for Star Wars,
The Olympics.
Poseidon Adventure, and Earthquake, he always finds a way to tap into the essence of what makes it moving or meaningful.
Oh, I love it.
The main reason I think it's important to celebrate him is just to say thank you for that amount of joy.
Yeah. Who's that guy? It's a dude from
He's
Coldplay.
always in a process of discovery.
He finds a whole new way of telling the story musically each time.
Lincoln, E.T.
It's the purest form of art I've ever experienced from any human being.
Home Alone.
Music is enough for a lifetime, but a lifetime is not enough for music.
Oh man, that's so good.
Right? I want to watch that.
That's cool. There's a whole documentary just for John Williams, huh? That's gonna be great.
I loved what Spielberg just said there, where he's like, I listened to his music, and then I now watch my movie his way.
Yeah, sure. No.
That's so good. Oh, that's great.
No, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done so many great themes, and like they named off so many, but they didn't even name off like some of the best ones, you know?
Do you ever just like, do you ever get in a groove and you're just kind of like making up like a tune or a song in your head as you go about your day? Does that ever happen to you? I know that sometimes imagination gets away from you sometimes. But I do that all the time.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. There was something, I don't know what it was. I think we were getting ready for this just now, and like there was something playing. I just started like adding my own little like, I'll just make noises sometimes.
Yeah. Sure, yeah.
And I was just like adding in like a different beat along with it. And then
like imagine doing that, but you're John fucking Williams. And like you just make up gold everywhere you go, you know, just pointing at people and doing a song.
I wonder, like, it'd be interesting watching that and seeing like from his point of view, like what he thinks of his music and whatnot. You know, like you hearing Steven Spielberg talk about what it does to his movies is awesome. Yeah. I'm curious on what John Williams thinks of it in the other way. I do remember watching a video where like it was like a kid on the sidewalk playing like the trumpet outside John Williams' house, and then he comes out and he's standing there like listening to it. And I was like, oh, that's really cool.
That was a great video.
I love it because like it's it's also like encouraging. Like he has a love for music. Like he talked about like, you know, and not just him, but like he got to work with so many great musicians and stuff too. So like seeing a kid who's like inspired by his music just helps adding
it's freaking awesome.
Adding more of that to it, you know.
It's been a constant. He's been a constant musical companion like my whole life, you know. And he still does it. You know, he's retired, but then he comes out. It's like Jordan. He'll come out of retirement.
Yeah.
You know, J.J. Abrams has that great story where he's like, yeah, he invited me over for Christmas, and he just sat down on his piano, and I got to hear Ray's theme for the first time by like Johnny Williams, like just doing it for me. He's like, it was one of the most magical moments of my life, and no one gets that but me.
Yeah, that's really cool. No, he's added so much to so like I love the showing of Jaws. Yeah, and it's just sound effects and then you add in the music, and it's like there's a lot more tension now. It just changes the mood a little bit.
Like imagine watching the opening crawl without, I mean, just having, you know, like what came first, the bah or the so big letters in space. Go.
Yeah, that's one of the things I always
like. How do you have one without
I'm
the
always
other?
Curious when doing editing for movies, because like when we would do fights and stuff, like I remember like adding in sound effects and trying to find what music and stuff is there and everything, and like usually like you can do one or two things. You can edit what film you have to the music you have, or you can try to fit the music into what your edit is.
Sure. Whenever we did Kylo Ren: The Awakening, that was the first time we actually had music made for a fight that we did.
Sure.
Whole different editing process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to be like, okay, so did Spielberg like, okay, here's my movie, I need music for this. Yeah. Or you say, hey, here's what I'm going for. I need a theme, you know. I'm looking for something. He makes the Star Wars theme, big, grand, with some, you know, shifts and tones and whatnot. And then it's like, okay, let's use all that. But I love the idea of like, okay, I'm going to watch this. What do I feel watching this? And then how do I put that into music?
Yeah, right.
Like that's a cool way to look at it too. So
it just must be just music in his head all the time, and it's awesome. Like there's music in my head, but it sucks, you know, because I'm not a musician.
I get that.
He's John Williams.
No, I love music, but like to make music like that, I just
and for it to be so recognizable with only a couple notes. Like I know exactly when it's the Superman theme. I know exactly when it's E.T. I know exactly when it's Schindler's List. I know exactly when it's Jaws. They're so like perfect in that regard. The only time I ever get confused is sometimes the General Grievous music in Episode 3 sounds like Harry Potter.
I see. Yeah. Okay.
The only time I've ever done that with John Williams.
Yeah. Like they all sound so unique between each other, you mean, kind of thing?
It's one of my common criticisms of certain composers is like, that wasn't hummable. Like, it's not sticking in my head. But John Williams sticks in your head so much. I mean, granted, he's also happens to be part of movies that I watch over and over again.
Yeah.
But how much is he responsible for that? I might not like those movies as much. I might not like Jurassic Park. Would it have the staying power if it wasn't for someone to make a choice to make a scary dinosaur movie have a beautiful haunting theme? You know, that gives you like the majesty of Earth and evolution versus like just scary teeth,
just scary sounds.
You know?
And
someone else would have, I think, maybe a little more scary. He went like majestic.
Maybe, yeah.
You know?
But, I mean, they don't use that same song while the T-Rex is like, ah, right?
No,
like
well, they have the softer one. They have the triumphant version, too, which is more like, you know? And, like, the T-Rex, like, gets that as, like, his hero music at the end when he stops the raptors. I just, like, would Jurassic Park have the staying power if I didn't love listening to it?
Sure.
You
No,
know?
I get what you mean.
Would Star Wars, would Hook, would Harry Potter, you know? It's just,
Yeah.
what a resume.
I think it's
maybe the best resume there's ever been resumed.
I think it's an interesting exercise to take a movie like one of those and we're gonna watch it with no music.
Yeah.
Sound effects, sure, you know, the voices and everything, all that's there, but there's no music.
I always found
how do you feel there?
I always found that he had a not unspoken, but underappreciated value of when not to use music too. Another thing that sometimes I think, like, especially like composers that are getting started, feel the need to like show their value all the time. John Williams sometimes will have no music. Like lightsaber fights generally used to have no music, you know, until Return of the Jedi, and we ramped it back up, you know, with the emotion at the end, you know.
Do you think that's his decision? Or
I know there's at least one. I can't remember what movie it's from. There's at least one thing where he's talking to Lucas like, I think we shouldn't have anything here, and Lucas is like, oh, okay, you know.
Okay.
I can't remember what it was on. I feel like it was from the prequels, but I might be wrong. The thing about John Williams too, he's looked the same for so long. I mean, he's much older now, of course, but he has that look where we're seeing pictures of him in his 30s, and he just looks like he always has, you know.
Sure.
Like Steve Martin in that regard to me. Yeah. But anyway,
really cool though.
Yep.
November 1st, it said it was coming out, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
And I just thought it was a cool thing to share. So.
Yeah. No, that's really neat. I love. I love John Williams. Yeah. He has great music. So this is definitely something I think I want to watch.
Well, Aaron, I think it's time to take that love and turn it to something else.
Oh.
Turn it to fear.
Oh.
Hatred.
Wait, hatred. How about just fear?
The dark
you
side.
Should stop it. Just stop at fear. Just stop at fear.
But it's the path to the dark side, Aaron. It leads to hate, and then anger, and
then. We will be having questions open up.
Yeah.
Just so that everyone knows. We'll be having questions hopefully at the end.
We'll get to all of them, every single one.
Maybe a little bit during the book discussion. We'll see where we're at with time and stuff too. But if you guys have read Death Troopers, hopefully you have. We're going to be covering lots of things with spoilers. So, but I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about fear, huh?
Let's talk about fear. Let's talk about anger. Let's talk about hunger. Let's talk about Death Troopers.
Yeah.
How long have you wanted to read Death Troopers?
I remember last October mentioning it. And I forget, I think we might have been in the middle of like the Thrawn trilogy maybe or something like that. I can't remember what it was. And I was like, well, all right, well, maybe another time we'll do it. And then I think our last book was a Thrawn book. And I was like, oh, man, we're probably going to be doing the trilogy. But then the next book wasn't part of it. I'm like, we could do Death Troopers.
We could do Death Troopers.
And we also had like a shorter time frame. And this one was also a shorter book. And I'm like, hey, it's a shorter book than Thrawn was too. Like, maybe we can do this. And you're like, all right. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, it was so short. I effectively like read it twice. Because at one point I was just kind of like, I was really busy last time when I was doing this. What happened? I was listening to it again, and I just pretty much read the entire book again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My goal is usually I like to try to listen through because I usually do it on audiobook.
Yeah.
I like to listen through if I can on a 1-point speed, just because I want to try to absorb it all.
Yeah.
And then I try to go through it again on like a 1.2 or so, just so it's a little faster through, but where I'm not like trying to listen for all the details, but I'm trying to pick up extra like, you know, a lot of times there's foreshadowing that I missed the first time because I didn't realize what it was going to be happening or something. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they said this. I didn't even realize this, you know? By the time they drop this part, I've forgotten about this part or something. So it's cool to see those moments. But, I think I enjoyed this book. I think I had a lot of fun with it. Like I said before, I really enjoyed just reading this book and not necessarily trying to think about anything it's connected to. Just let me read this book and see where it's at. And most of the story is pretty contained, so I wasn't too like feeling like I was lost or anything with anything. But what did you think of the book?
I mean, it was nice to step back into Legends, if only for the feeling of, I feel like Legends did this, and the new canon, I still love the new canon, but the new canon genre sometimes is Star Wars. Whereas Legends, sometimes that was the case, but other times it was like, hey, no, this is aliens mixed with, you know, Schindler's or The Shining.
The Shining,
you know,
sure,
like they would take the feelings of other properties and bring it. And that's kind of like what Lucas would do in Clone Wars. So I kind of feel some like
this
connection.
is the Godzilla kind of episode. And this is
So I definitely used to feel that way with some Legends book, and this book, I guess, being the return to Legends for me, because I've read, 90% of Legends. So I never read this book.
You never read this one?
I never read this one. Zombies wasn't really my thing back in the day.
Sure, yeah.
So I was just like, it's cool, but it's just zombie troopers. It's not like any of my favorite characters are in it.
Sure, yeah. No, I get you there. 'Cause that was always one of my things where it's like, oh, Death Trooper sounds really cool, but like I don't really, I don't know what it's about. It's always one where I'm like, I would like to read this at some point.
Sure.
So, but the book got me, especially in the beginning, because like we started off on the Purge, which was a like prison ship, right?
So the Purge is an Imperial prison transfer ship. Yeah.
Yeah, and throughout the whole thing, like you meet Trig Longo, you meet I think it's Sartoris.
Yeah.
We met Kale Longo, which was Trig's brother.
His older brother.
And we met Zahara Cody.
Yeah.
And
the doctor.
And like we met these characters, and I'm like, okay. And like as it kept going, like there's talks of like Trig thinking about an inmate who like had this weird eye staring at him.
Yeah.
And then like it got closer and closer and closer, and then he vanished. And I was like, man, that's just kind of creepy.
That's weird.
And then he's like trying to go to sleep or something like that, and he's like, there's a scream down the hall, but it didn't sound like a nightmare scream. It sounded like something worse. And I was like, man, what's going on? And then like when they made the comment at one point about like the engine hums and you hear it all the time, but he's gotten used to it, I'm like, so are the engines gonna go out and that's gonna be a thing? And like we kept doing all these things, and I was like, oh, okay, so what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? And then they got me with like, I kept waiting. I was like, things are slowly building up. Something's going to happen here.
Yeah.
And then, like, the engines went out, but we found another ship that we were going to go to and fix it and do that. I'm like, oh, so stuff's already happened over there. Yeah. That's where everything's going to kind of really be coming up. So I thought, like, we went to the med bay. There was someone who was sick, someone who already died. Like, all these kind of things were going on. I'm like, things are going to start, and something's already breaking out here. But I ended up liking the way the story went, because we got a lot more on like what causes this Death Trooper zombie thing.
It's
like,
a very self-contained book, but it really goes deep with its explanations.
Yeah. Like the black virus is like the thing they call this. I think Black Wing virus.
It's the Black Wing project. Yeah.
That they call this, where it's as I suspected, was a Imperial weapon, biological weapon thing, and we had viruses in Clone Wars.
The Blue Shadow virus.
Virus. Like, we had like biological weapon stuff that was being used in that. And we also had the Clone Wars with the worms. Yeah. Which I always watch that and I'm like, oh man, I bet this is kind of like a Death Trooper kind of idea here.
Well,
so like reading through it,
but that's also PG.
Sure, yeah.
This isn't.
No.
This isn't. If you're at all squeamish or like me, where like certain things kind of can make you uncomfortable. Like there were parts in this book I could not finish right when I started listening to them, and I had to like take a second.
Yeah.
Like bad. This is on my list. Later we'll do a list of our scariest things. There's a scene from this on my list.
That's one you're scared. Okay.
One of my scariest things in Star Wars. Period.
Yeah. That'd be interesting when we get to that, because like mine doesn't cover legend stuff. Mine's more canon things, because I didn't have a lot of like scary things in legends.
It's an extra
one. So. Sure, yeah.
But still.
But no, like I couldn't like. I don't like needles. I had to listen to some needle scenes. And I'm like,
it's like our only hope. This needle we've reused.
Damn it! No, I don't want a needle scene. Please take it away.
Yeah. But so we have this this prison ship. It loses power. There seems to be there's a Star Destroyer over there, and there's only 10 life forms aboard. And it's like, that's weird. There's usually 10,000. Let's go over there and check it out. So they formed a team. They started giving names, and I started writing all the names down. And then I should have just remembered Alien, because I'm like, I don't have to remember these names very long, because I didn't.
Well, yeah, because I think they send 10 over. They split off into 2 teams of 5. Yeah. And only 5 get back to the ship. And the other 5 they don't see again after a point.
Yeah. So they bring back the virus. It starts to spread, and then everything hits the fan. I do want to talk about the brothers though. I really enjoyed them, and I wonder. I mean, this has to be a thing I'm bringing with me. I kept like sometimes when a new original character is in a novel, I have to like cast them in my head.
Oh, okay.
So when it first started, I was going, Michael Scofield, Lincoln Burrows, Prison Break.
Okay.
I was thinking that, but then they end up being they're younger.
The younger kids.
So then I'm thinking like, okay, not like Sam and Dean, but like young Sam and Dean when their dad would leave them. So then I casted that in my head and I kept it the entire time because I really, really loved the character, especially of Kale, and the way that he was just like a pragmatic protector of his brother.
Yeah.
And I loved him, and I knew that as soon as I wrote down like I love Kale, that I'm watching a zombie. I'm listening to a zombie thing.
Yeah.
I shouldn't.
This
ever
is a
do
horror
that.
book.
Yeah, I don't know why I did that.
We know the names of like 6 people.
I know.
Like who's gonna survive? And that's one of the
Yeah.
things too. Like when going through this, I'm like, who is going to survive this? And I don't know. Especially like these names that I don't know. But yeah, I know. I really like them. I also liked Wembley, I think was the name of the guard, and he had like a BLX droid or whatever it was with him, and
a security droid. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought like, especially for like an Imperial guard, I thought that he was rather cool.
Well, yeah, he's like good natured, but he's also kind of dumb.
Sure,
like,
yeah, I get what you
mean. In
mean.
his own way, so I guess just the Imperial side of it, kind of like he just rolls with it.
Yeah.
It's always interesting, like whenever we have a character that's Imperial, like Dr. Cody.
Yeah.
How do we separate her from what the Empire usually does? And they did a pretty good job, Dr. Cody.
Sure, yeah.
But she felt like Lori from not Lori. What's the name of the doctor from Prison Break?
Tancredi.
Yeah, Tancredi.
Sarah Tancredi.
She likes the prisoners a little bit more, so I kept like even Sartoris. I was like, he's like the big dude from Prison Break. So
You kept relating everything to Prison Break?
Yeah,
Okay.
I love that show so much. So whenever I think of prison stuff and I was trying to cast, I kept thinking of that. But very, very soon the characters became their own.
Yeah.
I didn't have to do that anymore.
Yeah. No, I liked Dr. Cody. The story with her and Sartoris and Longo, like they all have like a connection.
Yeah.
So like you're getting their connection in history with them also being just separate people that you don't know.
Yeah.
But Sartoris has that Imperial, like kind of typical Imperial thing. Yeah. And they even go into it at one point talking about like his psychological like testing.
Yeah.
And like sometimes we take people like you just to do the things the Empire sometimes needs to do, kind of like you're a little bit more on the edge of like the brink, I guess, than other Imperials sometimes, you know? And I think that was right before he shot the Warden.
With 2 E11 blasters at the same time and turned his head into a cantaloupe. This this thing felt like a movie in that it was so visceral and gory for Star Wars. There's a part of me that's like, much like when we were reading Battle Scars, the Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor in between book, where I was like, I think the sex content in this is like so off the top, it's inappropriate for Star Wars sometimes. I started to feel that way with Death Troopers, but then I just enjoyed the story so much. And it's a Legends book. I don't really, I don't want to say I don't care, but
sure.
This is like fiction with no consequence.
Sure.
Not to say that normal things have consequence, but
I get what you mean. I do like similar to like when we talk about Marvel. I love the idea of Star Wars being a franchise that also tries to hit different audiences and different like ratings, right? Like different genres and stuff too.
Yeah.
So like going for an adult genre in horror for Star Wars is like that's a cool idea. But going for also like the more whimsical, like it's like the idea of having what is it? Jedi Adventures, like it's like the High Republic, like kids show. Where I'm like, well, that's probably not necessarily made for me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I like it being there for kids getting into Star Wars or wanting more Star Wars and then also learning with it.
Yeah.
At the same time of that, I'd love to have like a horror series or movie or game that sets like that. This is made for mature audiences, and this is the route we're going with it. But it's in that universe because like Star Wars can be light and fantasy and really cool hero kind of stuff, but also it can be dark and grimy and grungy and scary and
it's not one book; it's a library of books.
Yeah, so I like same thing with Marvel. Like I love when they do like a horror Marvel thing.
Yeah,
like I don't think we've really had like a horror genre series or movie or anything for Star Wars yet.
Not this intense.
There's usually a lot of action. But like even hitting like I think there's been like a romance book or something like that, right? That we haven't read or something.
There's a lot of stuff.
And just hitting those different genres I think is really cool. So this definitely was getting something a little different in Star Wars where I'm like, man, usually Darth Maul got cut in half.
Yeah.
You didn't really see anything, Yep.
And this is in terms of like supernatural stories don't necessarily scare me, but like this is more like, it's sci-fi fantasy.
Yeah.
And the horror described in the book just felt very real to me. So it was very effective in weirding me out, especially just the descriptions of just the terrible, like, it's zombies, Zombies. Like, yeah, those people aren't zombies. And, so whenever they get back up, I don't have much, like, sympathy for them,
Sure.
But they died terribly. Like, all of those deaths described are just like I never want that to happen. I don't want to die that way. I don't want to be eaten. And this happened. Both of those things happened. I confronted both of those fears in this book.
No, I mean, there's a I don't remember if it's Austin or which. There's one of the guards that they went boarded the Star Destroyer. They come back, they're coughing. A lot of them are coughing now. But like when they're in the med bay at one point, they're talking about someone who's coughing so much, and like he just like launches up and like a geyser of blood shoots out, and I'm like, gee, and the droid there that's helping him turns around, he's like covered in blood, and like, geez, man, there's a lot of blood in Star Wars. Dude, it's kind of cool. It's heavy and dark.
Yeah. So it's so out there. Yeah. It's so different that when I don't know if you want to go into it yet, but like when something familiar showed up, I was like,
okay,
it was whiplash. So continue.
I was not expecting to have anything I recognized in this book at all. And previously in this book, they're walking through Wembley. I was mentioning Wembley, right?
Wembley, yeah.
Wembley in his dying moments, because this virus gets on board, everyone starts dying, right? They're coughing, they're doing all this stuff. There are a few people who appear to be immune. They're not they're not having symptoms
for some reason. Yeah.
Dr. Cody, I think, got blood on her. Didn't get anything. At one point, someone came up to the bars and like spit blood into like Trigg's face.
Right,
and I was like, oh my God, no, he's done for. But I think the brothers had an immunity too for some reason. Like whatever, it's like a 99% like effectiveness, and then like that 1% is immune. You know.
They have
but the Wembley guy like opens in his dying moment, it seems, the gates to be able to let them out, and I was like, that's really cool.
The rest of the Imperial administration just leaves the prisoners down there to deal with to die.
Yeah. We got to deal with our own stuff, whatever.
Yeah, Wembley's he was a cool dude.
Yeah.
You could tell, like, he's rank and file, but his last thing he tried to do was let those boys out.
And he said, like, I'll look out for you guys as much as I can. And then when the moment came down to, like, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna open these gates. And I assume he opened them for all the prisoners too, because then also like you're gonna get more zombies later on,
Yep.
And also like the villain of their story, Ormis or something like that, I think was his name. It also lets that be a thing too.
Yeah.
So that they can confront that, because there's like a bounty on their head. But
dude, when Kale just ripped that dude's nose piercing out, his face.
Oh yeah, I fixed his face or whatever, that whole thing.
That was so badass. Because he was just like, I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna stab you. What are you gonna do? And Kale's like, run! I loved it so much. Oh man.
But what I was getting to was that when they got out and started walking around and looking around, they came across, like, there's all kinds of different prisoners, different species and aliens of all kinds, and they came to a room, and it said that there was like 2 Wookiees and a little Wookiee, and the little Wookiee was like sad with her parents, and they went and tried to like come on, let's go. And the way it affected them seemed so different, because like they talked about how like their necks had swollen and like ruptured and stuff, and it seemed different from the other ones. But that Wookiee stayed there. And then
that was my scene.
Oh, is that your scary scene that you're talking about?
That's one of the most horrifying scenes I've ever listened to.
Oh,
I could not listen to. And then the baby Wookiee wants to stay with its parents, and it wraps their dead parents' arms around it to simulate a hug so it can feel better about itself. And then they walk away, and then you hear this little baby Wookiee toddler, whatever it is, screaming because it's being eaten.
Well, you assume so, because then you hear...
That's what they said.
Because it screamed and then it stopped, and then you heard slurping sounds is what you heard.
I know.
You don't know what it was. Could have been anything. Could have been anything, Eric.
I know.
But also, like...
I couldn't do it. Like, I literally had to shut it off and not go back.
Stop here. Yeah. I've had moments like that in some things. I got to pause here now.
It was devastating to me.
Yeah. I do love the sense of, like, dread that there's something following them.
Yeah.
And then, like, they leave, and then you hear that behind. You're like, whoa, what is coming,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was a heavy scene. But with that, later on we follow Zahara, and she looks to find like there's only 6 life forms still left on the whole ship.
Yeah.
I did find it interesting that they were like, well, we can expand, motion, brainwaves, like all these different things. Like we look for this.
Yeah.
but like we can expand that. And I was like, oh man, you expand that. What else you gonna find? Oh, do that. Like, but they find that there's 2 people down in like solitary confinement, and I was like, oh man. Like you didn't even put these people in the regular, and she's thinking the same thing. And we get down there, and one like she opens up, and it's a roar, and the roar in the book like it seems so scary and stuff too. And it's a Wookiee coming out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a Wookiee. How tough is it gonna be? But it calmed down when there's a blaster. And I didn't even think about anything whenever they opened the next door, and they said that there's a guy with dark hair, and he comes out too. And I was like, okay, who's this guy gonna be? What's going on with this? Like I was so surprised to get Han and Chewie.
And then the guy just goes, easy, Chewie.
Yeah.
And then it does the thing. The audiobooks do this all the time. They only have specific musical cues that they use sometimes. And sometimes they use the you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes I think inappropriate spots.
I get you.
And it kind of distracts me. This was the best use of that.
The best time to get it.
Because literally that's the same sound cue when Han and Chewie come onto the Falcon. Chewie. We're home. You know, like, dun-dun-dun. You know, I just felt it was such an appropriate use of that theme, and I had no freaking clue Han and Chewie were in this.
I didn't know either. I had no idea. I was like, okay, here's all the characters I'm gonna get. This is cool. It's very self-contained. That way you don't,
I know
you don't interfere with any of the canon of the old legends back when you wrote this.
I just so funny that I'm reading a Star Wars book. I'm like, oh, a Star Wars character.
I was very surprised.
So surprised, man.
Now,
so cool.
The worst thing about it is that I get to the point where I'm like, well, I'm not worried about them. They have to make it.
Yeah.
But what about the other characters? But it was a cool addition when we've lost so many people to get these 2 brought in.
Yeah, and then effectively, narratively, you have like this handoff as they're with characters, and when those characters aren't with Han and Chewie, like it's like they're in more danger, they're not in danger,
And for the most part, for most of the book, usually they were characters with the characters we were following. It wasn't until later on when we kind of like, now we're following Han.
Yeah.
But in that scene, like there is a scary moment for Chewie where like they have like a cure, an antivirus more so, not necessarily a cure, but like they took the Waste, the robot that worked with
2-1B medical droid.
Yeah,
Waste. Do you know 2-1Bs? It's the same one as...
There's just the medical droid,
yeah,
right?
It's the one that you see all the time.
It's like the medical droid that you see.
Yeah, that's that medical droid.
But they call him Waste.
Waste.
And I was like...
As a term of endearment.
I did love that. It's like, waste. Like waste of space or waste of resources. But now he looks at it as a term of endearment. And I was like, that's kind of cute. I like it. It's like Deku. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Waste created like a antivirus out of Dr. Cody, who appeared to be immune to this virus, and then she injected Han and it seemed okay, but then she injected Chewie with it, and what we had been told before of the other Wookiees, he started getting the same thing, and he started swelling and getting really mad.
What did you think about being able to be
in his head?
In his head.
That was kind of cool.
Like
the Life Day
Chewie
stuff?
I mean, I realized, like, oh my God, we haven't read a lot of Chewie stuff. When I was listening to that, I was like, Aaron's never had this. He's never been in Chewie's head.
I've never been in Chewie's head. They mentioned Nala, or what is it?
Mala.
Mala.
Yeah.
They mentioned Mala.
They mentioned some...
they mentioned Life Day?
Well, in the Legends continuity, Chewie is married. Those characters are canon.
Yeah. No, yeah. I just thought it was really cool. I'm like, oh, hey. Now, I guess, of course, there I start bringing in some of that. I know that. Yeah. I know that person, all right. And he's thinking about his grandpa and his son. I'm like, I know them. I know, right? Yeah. But the other thing, like there's like this entity almost that like he's hearing someone else talk to him and stuff. And it's just like eat, kill. It's just like this devouring kind of.
Which you don't want a Wookiee.
No, you don't. You don't want it to eat and kill and rip off your arms and do all that stuff. You don't. But that's what he wanted to do. Yeah. But then he couldn't breathe and he fell unconscious. Yeah. And then we get more of a needle scene because I was already like, damn it, now we got to do the stupid thing. Yep. And then now we had to like remove the swelling liquid.
The liquid.
To try to save him. And they kept going back and forth.
That's the cool. That's the thing about this zombie story is that, it's not about just making zombies. It's that you create zombies to farm the liquid they produce, which then creates more zombies, But like they were using them as like almost like farm equipment in this place. Yeah. But I love the detail that it makes the zombies like they're not just, mindless. Like they have like a hive mind thing. They're like almost like
insects. A swarm.
Yeah, like swarm. And they also like learn a little bit.
Yeah.
So the longer they're zombies, the more terrifying they can be. and they're programmed / designed to just get out and spread.
Yeah.
It's a very, very scary situation. But I loved how it was introduced to us, where we just found like lungs, you know?
Dude, yeah. So getting to that Star Destroyer with the group, one group, and it's the last time we see anyone from the party that doesn't come back.
Yeah.
Is they found like the lung room, and just whatever these experiments are that they're doing or what's going on and what they're testing.
Yeah.
But whenever they had a moment of like they screamed, I was like, the hell is this? But
when the lung screamed.
Yeah. I'm like, wow, what does this mean?
Lung shouldn't scream, dude.
No, they shouldn't.
Yeah.
But the more we got into the book and stuff, and after I was listening to it a second time, I was like, is this like a summoning thing? Because like they all have like this screaming, and almost like they're screaming here, and you hear things like responding over here. It felt like, oh, this started it maybe. This awoke everything.
Sure, yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they pretty much just like scream in agony, and that's how they communicate to the other people on the ship that also scream in agony back, and then they learn.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yay.
Yep. But yeah, we had Han and Chewie in the book, which was the biggest surprise.
It was.
For me, I would say.
I was very surprised. Like that part was the biggest surprise. Everything else was like not quite what I expected, but like in a zombie book. Like you were talking about like the gore and the visceral elements of it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect that from Star Wars, but
yeah. I mean, you know, like I said, one of my recurring nightmares is being eaten. You know,
that's a recurring nightmare for you.
Yeah, I have a recurring nightmare of like being like in the jaws of something, down its throat, in its stomach, waiting, you know, to be digested. You know, I don't know why it comes up a lot, but I have that dream common all the time. And then just like body horror is always something. So when when Kale and Trig, when Kale and Trig see their dad, you know, and it's like, oh, and his jaw's hanging off, you know, like it was so easy for me to like think of like me and my brother and my dad too, you know.
Oh,
like,
okay. This is you and Kenny, and then your dad is the one coming at you.
Yeah, and it was just it was just quite terrible, man, and it was really effective. Yeah. Did this live up to your expectation or anything like that, or?
I think so. Yeah. There's a lot of moments in it that I really liked. I love I love them walking through the ship, like especially we have Trig and Kale trying to get to an escape pod to get out, and then we had Zahara going down to the solitary, and they talk about what they see and how terrible it looks, and just all the gore and bodies and everything. And then we get down, and Chewie and Han have been in solitary confinement, and she's explaining to them, and I'm sure it sounds crazed, you know?
Lady.
Okay. Whatever. You want to inject me with this stuff, and it's a cure for this. All right.
There's a magical force that controls everything.
Yeah, right? I've seen a lot of things around it. Yeah. But then, like, when you go out, and, like, they had a thing where it's like, I dropped the blaster and went to help Chewie and stuff, and you look, and there's no blaster, and there's no bodies, and everything's just gone.
Everything's gone. That was...
And you're like...
That's terrifying.
What?
Yeah. And
there's a moment when Trig, Kale, Han, Chewie, and Zahara all finally meet up. And there is I'm trying to remember exactly what the lines were. They're going to go and do something, I think, to try to get the escape pod opened up. Mm-hmm. And Trig says, like, is there anyone else left? He's like, no, we're all that's left. Because Sartorius took the escape pod.
Yep.
Left Trig and Kale.
He definitely did.
These are the last 5 on the ship. And then he's like, I realized later that I asked her the wrong question. I should have asked, what happened to all the bodies?
What happened to the bodies?
And I'm like, that'd have been my first question.
Been my first
I don't care if anyone else is left.
Yeah.
I didn't even know those guys, you know? Like, where are the bodies?
Someone came up and said, hey, where's everybody? Like, you know, I'd be like, are you really not going to ask me about the bodies?
The one thing I had, and this is before, because like they're about to like escape the purge and go to the Star Destroyer. Mm-hmm. I kept waiting for the BLX droid to come back, unless I missed a part where like you hear it getting ripped up, and I don't remember because he stayed with Wembley. He's like, I'm gonna stay here, but I thought at a point whenever Wembley like got back up or something like that, like maybe something would have happened, but maybe not.
I think he liked Wembley. He wanted to stay with Wembley.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, because it says like it's like he thinks about it. Because they do the same thing with the Wookiee. Mm-hmm. The Wookiee like thinks about it, But no, you don't see the droid again. You
No.
do see the Wookiee again. Unfortunately, I hated that part where it's like on him. They use the words like a squirming rat, and I was just like Jesus. And then they get shot, and like Chewie has a moment where he like looks at the little baby, zombie Wookiee, and like says nothing and walks away, and it's like Jesus. It's terrifying. And knowing that he's got a little one at home, he's probably thinking of,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
No, but I love that, and I love like when they get to the bridge, and I believe this is the moment when they say like, 200 more life forms showed up, or whatever it was, whatever the number is on the purge that they needed, and they're like, what? And they look, and there's just a bunch of beeps, and they're all heading to the bridge.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, what?
Like,
and then you cut, and it's the brother carrying the other brother, running from all these things. And they have nowhere to go but on the Star Destroyer where everything started. I'm like, oh, shit, this isn't good.
Yep. No, I thought there were great moments. I thought there was, a lot of, for how dark it was, Trig, like, still had a lot of hope and, like, kept that hope up.
For
and then,
a while.
And then lost it.
Yeah.
But when he lost it, it felt earned. It wasn't, it felt
sure.
like.
I was
constantly impressed by this 13-year-old's point that he could push himself to until he couldn't go anymore.
Yeah. I was saddened by Kale's death. Like, getting onto the Star Destroyer, like, he got bit by his dad. You said about his dad being
his
there.
His dad did it. Yeah.
His dad bit him.
Yeah.
And there's a scene. I think this is one of the things I like. I like the Chewie in the head, eat, kill, like getting an idea of that. I liked
Sing the Song of Life Day.
Yeah.
Eat, kill.
I liked Kale, like, just saying, cut it off. It's like, what do you mean? And it's like, no, cut it off. It's like, where's your pain? It's like, there is no pain. I can feel it taking over kind of thing. Cut off my leg. And I was like, man, like, what do you have to feel? Like, Walking Dead and stuff we've watched, I felt like there's pain, but people must not feel that kind of thing.
Sure.
He had no idea this worked that way. And he said, cut it off.
Yeah.
I'm not taking any chances. And then they cut off his leg, and they can't get away from the door far enough away before they bust through with blasters and shoot him. I was like, the zombies are using guns now.
The zombies are using guns.
I was like, oh my God. So that moment.
These zombies, like, by the nature of like their scream and they can communicate with each other, they somehow were able to do kind of more like rudimentary things. That they're not going to be awesome at it. They talk about how at the beginning, like, they're stormtrooper zombies and they can't hit, but as they get better, they're getting closer, and Han can smell ozone now because it's so close, know? I just thought it was a funny play when, like, stormtroopers suck. Oh, no, when they're zombies, they're better.
They're getting better. They're getting better. But, like, that moment there, like, what'd you think of, like, Sartor's escapes in the escape pod, but doesn't get out because they tractor beamed him back in?
I was like, wait, so are there real people over there, like, doing that? Okay, interesting, but
Which, there were some other real people.
And they were cannibals.
Well, yeah.
By necessity, but still.
They drew straws.
They did. Hey, we're not monsters.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Everyone had an equal chance to get eaten.
They had a quick death.
Yeah.
We had a long buffet.
Yeah, right? But that was a scary moment. That was a little different, where it's like Sartoris is like alive, but now you're surrounded by 8 cannibals, and then he starts killing them and just throwing them out of the ship and letting the other things get him.
Yeah.
No. But yeah, no. The growth of these things, like as they continue to go, like they can use tractor beams. They're starting to shoot stuff. They're like Sartoris escapes by shooting the X-wing and killing some of them that way, and then they do that too and shoot their ship. And I was like, oh, my gosh, they do keep learning. Yeah. And that was a terrifying thing.
Terrifying.
Of, like, undead stormtroopers, whatever.
Yeah, they're, like, pointing an X-Wing up. Like, well, we're going to do this.
Yeah, up there, get him. So, but I liked Kale's story, Trig's story. I thought were really good. Yeah. Sartoris, like, I didn't necessarily like him, but I like that he came back around in a redemption-ish way.
Yeah, he's like our true blue Imperial, but sometimes you go through something so crazy, you got to be a little bit better.
I feel like it turns into a point where it's the dead versus the living, and it's like he gets bitten. I do like that they had the lifter thing from the beginning.
They did.
When I re-listened to it, I heard it again. I'm like, okay, so like it's already been established that it can't hold a lot of weight.
Yeah.
So then later on, when Trig is escaping from his brother,
his undead brother,
and having to crawl out of this vent that he followed him into, and all this stuff happens, and now he's falling to his death because also Ormis is here, pulling him down into the thousands of them down in the reactor hole or whatever it is that they're over top of.
Pretty much like those endless shafts that you see like all over the place. Like,
with no railings, because they never have railings.
At the bottom, there's like 10,000 zombies all looking up and, they notice you all at the same time. Oh, terrifying.
Yeah, I hate that. But whenever he got caught, I'm like, oh, Zahara? Yeah. I did not expect it to be Sartoris catching him. But like he's already been bitten, so he's already like a dead man walking kind of thing. So him like catching them and saving them, and then also like, I'm going to sacrifice myself so you guys can get out of here.
Sure.
I was like, well, I'm glad that like, this is the story where I don't know. Sartoris was trying to get like information from their father, and then like just killed their father. And Zahara, like, she's like, I'm not for this. This is not what I signed up for, and that's kind of why she's wanting to leave the Empire.
She hands in her resignation. She's going to leave after this trip.
Yeah. So like you have that bit there, and Trig has now lost his brother. He's lost his father. At least this is the last good deed that Sartoris does, is at least saves this one son for this family that he's already killed the father for, and all this stuff's happened. He kind of, in a way, he's the one who brought it back to the ship, but he did what the warden told him to do too. But, but no, I like that aspect of it. I thought it was scary that they get back to the hangar and they're trying to fly away, and so are the zombies.
The zombies are trying to get out. Yeah,
that was a crazy part too. And I'm like, okay, well, we must self-destruct the ship or something, right? Like we're gonna stop this, and then they're just flying out. I'm like, we're not stopping this. They're just flying out. All right. But they talk about like the flaw that this thing has is that it can't get like too far from like the hive mind of it or something too. So they start dying.
They're only smart when they're amassing in numbers.
Yeah. And then once they're all kind of on their own, they just kind of die.
And the virus will die out.
Yeah. So I was like, okay.
I mean, which I guess if you're designing something, you want it to be able to eventually be like, and it's done.
Yeah. We can control this because you don't want to take over the whole galaxy.
Yeah.
So, no, I think the story was really good. I couldn't not think about how much fun I would have if this was like a game. Like you played Dead Space more recently. Yeah. I was just thinking like this in that style. Yeah. And then I jumped into the idea of like, I haven't played Outlaws yet. I still want to play Outlaws. But I imagine like in an idea where, because I don't know if this would make great a whole game, or if you're jumping around from different points, or if you're doing it more of like Until Dawn, right? Okay. Where it's more story oriented.
Yeah.
But if it's more in the idea of like more action oriented, like Dead Space or something, remember in Jedi Fallen Order where like sometimes if you lost to a bounty hunter, it would happen to be the time that it would take you to this other location, and you've been imprisoned, and you have to like fight your way out.
Like there was no winning that battle. You're going to get taken.
Yeah. Like that. Like there's other bounty hunters you beat.
Sure.
This one you didn't. Mm-hmm. I was like, how cool would it be to be like playing like Outlaws? And since I haven't played it, like I don't have the great. But I always think of like Grand Theft Auto, where it's like, you've been arrested. All right, well you just pop out of here and now you go. What if there's like that one time where you've been arrested? But you're being sent, and they put you on a barge, and you get released by a doctor who has a cure, and now you're just in the middle of this. Like, you kind of jump into the middle, and now you have to escape, and that's like a small little extra mission that just sometimes happens. This
happens.
It's like it's once in a playthrough, this can happen. I was like, that would just be a cool moment where it's like, I don't know what's going on, and I'm just tossed in here like Han, being woken up, and there's zombies, and I'm just trying to escape. And I was like, that would be really neat to just have, like, you just wake up in a prison barge and like, well, all right, how do I escape this? And then the door's open, and then now you're the last half of the book. Yeah, I was like, that'd be really
fast zombies. Damn it.
Yeah, and then like imagine like playing through and it's like they're just zombies. Okay, get away from them. Oh, they're fast zombies. Get away from them. They shoot blasters. Shoot back. Like it just keeps increasing until you can get out of the ship.
Yep.
So that was one of the things I just kept thinking about. I'm like, man, that would be really cool. Maybe someone will use this. But like they kind of used a general idea with Clone Wars.
Yeah, it's a little more like animal based than it is viral or whatever, right? That one's more bugs.
Yeah.
Whereas this is a virus, but they effectively work the same.
It still kind of has that hive mind aspect. It still has like they're being controlled and don't have like they're like dead. They can still use blasters and elements like that. And I was like, it's cool that they can still pull. 'Cause I figure that comes from this, but maybe it comes from some, George Lucas pulled from all kinds of stuff. Maybe he pulled from like another movie or story or something too. But no, I think I had a lot of fun reading this book.
Yeah.
It was fun during October to be going through like a horror Star Wars thing. And then it wasn't until today, like Nexus didn't know that we were going to pick this book last time. Usually he kind of like gives recommendations for different books. And he was like, don't forget, like, here's the recommendation that I have for your next book. And I was like, oh, we're gonna do Death Troopers 2.
Yeah, just to surprise him again.
Yeah, and I was like, haha, it's a joke. And he's like, Red Harvest? And I was
Harvest?
like, what are you talking about? And then like you had said like, oh, there's like a prequel book.
Yeah,
like, there is.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. So
famously, Blue Harvest was the code name for the working Star Wars title, so that they could avoid press and being charged and stuff. So Red Harvest is the prequel name, and I just thought that was really clever. Yeah,
that's neat. So. Yeah, maybe we can read that sometime too.
I do also. I appreciate the way the book ended. I loved that. Like one of my favorite things from like the first Harry Potter book is there's this great line after they take out the cave troll in the bathroom, like they save Hermione and they work together to do it. And there's this line where it's like, there are few things that 11-year-olds can do and not become best friends for life. And taking down a fully grown mountain troll is one of them. I liked the kind of like through war sibling energy the Doctor and Trig had in that final scene. But that scene was just so beautiful because in the book the Doctor finds this note.
Yeah, on the way to solitary confinement.
She finds this note and it's you do not know who this person is. It's just a beautiful, heartfelt, imperial thinking of his family in the last moments of his life. And the book ends with, I don't even know how they did it because they don't even know who it was. Like the signature was all messed up, right?
Sure, yeah.
But somehow they find that widow and their 3 kids that he talks about. And I just love that ending. And I love that when the mother goes through an emotional response and then invites them in and they say, because the book was so visceral in its description of horror, the smell of horror, the taste, and I love the book ends with, and they entered into the sound of children and the smell of tea. I just thought that was nice.
Yeah.
Like I was like, thank you. I needed that.
No, that was really good. I had forgotten about the note when we got to that point, the epilogue, because I was like, oh, Zahara has unfinished business. I wonder what this is going to be. And I teared up during that, like when it was like her reading and the kids were like grouping around it and everything too, and they're reading like the last words from their dad, and I was like, man, this is so sad. But she just like looks up and it's not like why, or she says thank you, because it's been however long and they don't know what's happened to their father.
She mentions like all the Imperials were already here and she's like apprehensive to talk to them more. I doubt there was much like
I'm getting no answers. I just want to know what happened. Is he alive? Is he not alive? And I really loved that she just said thank you and then offered tea, because at least now there's closure. Yeah, but no,
so it was a good dismount to a otherwise terrifying book.
Yeah. The one thing I liked and didn't like in it was in the beginning of each chapter they all had a title. Yeah, which I thought was really cool because a lot of the books we've read lately they don't have that. Yeah. The only thing is I wish that up to a point they didn't feel as different. In the first, like, I don't know, 12 chapters or so, like, there'd be, like, little differences. One of them was, like, they would say, like, one chapter was, like, words, and then there was, like, a different, like, voice in the background was, like, words. Yeah. And I was like, that's just kind of creepy, you know? Another one had, like, this radio interference sound, like, you couldn't quite hear what was being said, like, you know? But then eventually, like, it got to the point where they would just be like, Awakening! VHB!
Yeah, I know.
Tressa!
It was crescendoing,
like,
Aaron.
I guess so, but like I don't know. I kind of wanted them to just have a little bit of a different feel, and then eventually I was like, "All right, yeah, I know, yell it. Okay, yeah, you yell it. Okay, yeah, you yell it." But I loved like them giving me like a little feel each one, and sometimes I feel like just the yell one didn't match what was happening with the rest of it. You know? Yeah. Like I don't know, the one whenever Sartoris is meeting the cannibals would have been nice to be like, I don't remember what it was called, you know, but it'd been nice to have a little bit of, I don't know. just a different sound. Like, oh, what are we doing here? You know, I don't know. So, but no, it was. I did like that they were trying to get you into that mindset throughout the book. Even in the very beginning, like I was like, you know, dead boys, and I was like, oh no, what are the dead boys? You know, what's that going to be? Or the meat house or whatever it was called. You know, like, and they were just like, here's what they're called, dead boys, because there's a bounty on their heads now. And I'm like, okay, but they sounded. I'm already in the scary mindset, it sounded sinister and scary, you know? So it just kind of kept me in that. Mm-hmm. But I did like them having their own titles and everything. Yeah. Like Black Tank Blues, and it would be like, Black Tank! You know?
It would.
The silliest one I thought was whenever it was like, because some of those fit, and they would be like, you know, Say It 3 Times was a cool one, because it was like, say it 3 times, like, say it. You know, and it had a whisper to it. But the one that I thought was the funniest was, it was the lung one. Because it was the one where I think they lung room, or I forget what they called it, but it was like,
something like that.
It was like lung room, and then the guy just went lung room, and I'm like, that's all you, that's what you give it. You can't give it something else. Like, I don't know.
Oh, that's funny.
but no, overall, I don't know. I don't know if I want to say one of my favorite Legends books, but I will say one of my favorite Legends books because I have like 3 or 4 out of. I'm gonna count all Legends books that I haven't read. Yeah. This is one of my favorites. So
yeah, I definitely quite enjoyed it as well. There was one line that I liked, completely unrelated to Star Wars and to zombies and stuff. It was just good old gun safety. They said like something that their father used to say, which is, if you carry a blaster, everything else you're doing becomes second. And I loved that phrase because, you know, even, you know, if you're wielding a firearm, you know, like it was drilled into me since I could speak that you always treat this thing as if it's fully loaded. Like you never point it at anybody for any reason, you know, not for jest, not because you know it's unloaded. Like if you point at it, you might as well be saying, hey, I don't care if you live or die, you know? So like that's so drilled into me that just when I saw that line, I was like, man, that's a good one.
Like, yes.
Everything else you do becomes second. Like I just felt like that was such a good, like, I'm going to remember that forever from this book. Thank you, book. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, the Longo Dad.
Yeah, no, it's important.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yep.
All right. I don't know if I have too much else right now. Well, I think we covered most of the story stuff. I wrote. This is the most notes I think I took on any book. Because what I tried to do, especially since I didn't have a lot of other canon connections or anything too, I was like, okay, I just want to focus on this book a lot. And writing things down often helps me to remember kind of the story for it. So like as it would go, I'm like, ooh, okay, guard note to Kai. Ooh, what's this go? You know, sorry, I'm not coming home. Like, oh man, that's so sad. Where's Waste? Oh no, Waste isn't here.
I left my notes at home, but just because I wrote it down, I remember that line.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah.
There might be. I see a couple things coming in with some questions, or at least highlighted things that I might want to look at here. Where Nexus says, in Legends, after Death Troopers in the Galaxies MMORPG.
Oh, Star Wars Galaxies, yeah.
The project is relocated to a facility on Dathomir, which of course it also breaks out of.
Zombies on Dathomir? What?
The Empire quarantines the area to not lose the virus and the data. Both Trig and Zahara are dropped off on Dathomir by the Millennium Falcon and start helping infected people in the quarantine zone with their antivirus.
I love when the, you know, older games could just pull from Legends, like when they wanted to. Like it was never like a directive, but you could tell that writers that actually kind of cared about it would. They'll like, oh, this, you can bring in this character from this story. You can do this here. I always liked that Legends. I felt like did that a little bit more like, I don't know, less designed. It would just kind of do it.
Sure, yeah.
You know?
I mean, that would be really cool. Like if I'm playing like an MMO, like when I played Star Wars: The Old Republic, I never played Star Wars Galaxies, but I always heard it was really cool and a lot of things they did with it. But it'd be cool if like, hey guys, here's what's going on Dathomir. There's an outbreak of this. Yeah. It's like when you had like the Rakghouls.
Yeah.
Right, and you got to go down, you got to take out Rakghouls and stuff. Like in SWTOR at one point, like you get to go to like Terrace or Tenaris. I think it's Terrace is the one.
Terrace.
And when you go down, like there are parts where you have like these,
Undercity,
there's some Rakghouls around and stuff. You got to deal with Rakghouls. But it'd be cool to have like, here's a zombie thing, and you come down and like they're there trying to get antivirus, and you're just trying to help with some quest lines to help this situation.
Gotcha.
That'd be a cool idea to have, you know. I would definitely like saying about it being in a game. That would be so cool to have.
I'm trying to think zombies in Star Wars. There's the Death Troopers. There's the troopers that we think might be zombied or are zombied in Ahsoka. There's the Dathomir. Do you consider? No, this is going to be
the witches. Yeah, the witches. Whenever they release like they're dead.
Yeah,
that's zombies.
That's zombies.
That's just
100%.
zombies.
And I say the Geonosian bugs are pretty zombie-like. Do you this is going to be an out there question. Is Darth Vader a zombie?
No, because he's a cyborg.
Yeah, but he's living in the husk of a dead man.
No, he's a man who's more machine now and living in a suit.
Anakin Skywalker is dead. I am what remains.
You're fighting against your own ideals here, Eric.
I know.
You know what?
No, I like both of them.
You know what? I agree. He is a zombie because Anakin's dead and Darth Vader doesn't exist.
Damn! I was thinking about that in terms of like thinking of the zombies, and I was going like, could you like by the numbers like try to push him in the door and try to like no. If Jesus was a zombie, he's a zombie.
Yeah, right. If Jesus is a zombie, I don't know. I guess it'd be in the same vein of like if you died and a spirit possessed you, are you a zombie or are you now just that person possessing that body? I don't know.
Is Darth Sion a zombie? He used the power of the dark side to like pretty much what Anakin does, but on a way crazier level where his body's dead, but he wills himself to move. You know?
How's he will himself to move?
He was one of the Sith Lords from KOTOR 2. There was Nihilus.
I never played KOTOR 2.
Nihilus eats everything, including planets and your spirit. And then Sion he's so angry he will not die.
Wait, so they had Galactus and then like an undead dude?
Yeah.
I need to play KOTOR 2.
It's a good one, dude. But you got to play the Restoration mod with it.
Where they put the planets that they cut out?
Yeah, they add in like the droid planet. And
I heard that there was a planet they cut out or so, and they never got to the ending and stuff.
Yeah.
But no, I've never played KOTOR 2, and I've never gotten to the end of KOTOR 1.
If you play it, you'll get to see the original version of Malachor 5, not the Malachor from Rebels.
Really?
Yeah.
That sounds cool. But yeah, I probably would not count Vader as a zombie.
All right. Well, I guess that's probably a pretty good transition because Darth Vader is a very scary thing when it comes to Star Wars. And Aaron and I are going to give our top choices for our scariest things in Star Wars.
Yes. What are the scariest things in Star Wars?
First, I think we need to talk about your standard. Like, what is scary to you? And, like, what do you consider, like, horrifying?
I tried to put a little bit of everything in here because I have things from, like, this is a real just scary moment to this might not be scary for me, but I can see this being scary for other people especially. Sure. So some of those might be a little bit lower on the list. I have one especially that I guarantee is not on any list you made.
Ooh, a challenge.
I think.
Okay.
I'm 99% certain that it is not on your list.
I'll go first, and I'll just cheat and say the Wookiee toddler scene from Death Troopers.
Damn it, that was the one I didn't. No.
In that, I'm not kidding. Like if I'm trying to create my standard for what is scary, it's how does something make me feel, and do I feel fear or disgust or sadness? I felt all of those things more than anything else I've watched in Star Wars. So it's almost my number one is how bad it was for me.
Gotcha.
But it's also because Wookiees are kind of coded to be like your dog. You know, like Indiana was Lucas's dog, and that's what he bases.
I thought Han was a dog.
No. Chewie thinks of him like a dog. But in terms of like Chewie's utilization and vocalization and the way that Han looks at him, I always kind of consider, Wookiees. I mean, yes, they're thinking beings and stuff, but as a dog owner, it was just a really hard thing to watch, to check out. So that would be my cheating one, and not something that I'll really go into hardcore because we already talked about it.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. My first one I went with, especially when I'm younger, but I think even now, the scariness of like, if there's like say a foot of water, and you can't really see into it, do you want to walk into it? Why not?
My socks will get wet.
That's the only reason?
At the very least.
Yeah.
That's enough to avoid it. But there could be rusty nails in there. There could be
an alligator.
An alligator.
Or a Dianaga.
A Dianaga.
Yeah.
Just trash that can get into an infected wound.
My first one I picked was trash compactor. I think overall the scene, like, being in a trash compactor is like a scary idea that you're going to be crushed, but just what happens with Luke, and I remember like being younger and being like, whoa, what's that eyeball popping out? What's that thing?
Yeah, when I was young, the eyeball freaked me out.
Yeah. So like,
I'd hide from the eyeball.
Yeah. So
you watch it as an adult, you're like, that's cool. But I watched it when I was a kid. I was like, ah! But I did the same thing with like, Are You Afraid of the Dark? I was scared of that.
Oh, yeah, right. And they had like the episode where like the furnace is gonna eat you.
Exactly.
You know? I was like, oh
dude,
god,
like,
no.
Goosebumps scared me. Jesus.
So no, my first one I have on my list, and I tried to also when I first started going through, I felt like I had a lot of original trilogy stuff, which I was surprised by.
Okay.
And I was like, no, I want to pull from a little bit of everything that I can.
I pulled from almost not many movies.
Not many movies. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, some. but I pulled a lot.
All right. Well, yeah. So the trash compactor, I think, is the scariest
That's a good
scene.
one.
I mean, there's the water that you don't know what's under there, which there's a Dianaga, and you get to see a little bit of an eye and tentacles, and you still don't know what it is. And then you're gonna get crushed. Like, it's a terrible place to be.
Yeah.
And I think it's scary in a few ways. Claustrophobia, just what's under the water. I remember playing Shadows of the Empire and getting to see what's under the water, and it's scary, Eric. Scary.
I remember.
Terrifying.
I played it. It's terrifying. It's also from C-3PO's point of view. I mean, luckily he's a robot. He can't deal with that trauma. He's like, oh, listen to them all too. They're dying in there. Curse my metal body. I wasn't fast enough, you know. Oh yeah. We didn't really talk about it, but there's you mentioned waste.
Waste, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Back to the book.
Back in the book, I just wanted to really quickly talk about it. I loved that what Waste saw was so terrifying and so illogical. It broke him. It broke his robot programming. Like, he could not. Like, he was like, oh, a miracle happened, you know, at one point. But it was really because what he was seeing was so horrifying. It did not make sense.
Dude,
and that can destroy a droid's programming. I loved it.
The scene where, like, she picks up the head and is trying, like, I love that.
Yeah.
Though, I love also when she's in the med bay over at the Star Destroyer and is about to get taken out by something, and Waste saves her. But it's another one of the med.
It's the payoff of the term of endearment part of it. Anyway,
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that because I also love that part. Okay, yeah, that's a good one. I think in that same vein, because I'm trying to go from like least scary to scariest or whatever. I remember being a kid and being terrified of the Han and Carbonite scene.
Okay.
I really do. I think that scene. I mean, it has to appeal to all ages, of course, right? It's the Star Wars original trilogy. It can't be so scary that young kids can't watch it. It can't be, so kiddie that, adults are getting bored or whatever. But I mean, I have very, very clear memories of like being sad, scared, and confused when I saw Harrison Ford's face in Carbonite.
Sure,
like, that was more scary to me than how scary Darth Vader was. Because when I was a kid, I'm like, Darth Vader's cool. you know?
What's that do for like claustrophobia? Where like people are afraid of being locked in a coffin.
Yeah.
Imagine being locked like in
you might,
stone. You know what I mean?
Right, because there's a part of me that's like. My fear of being eaten is also part of claustrophobia too, like being stuck
inside and you
pressed
can't move.
in on all sides,
Yeah, like he is stuck there and can't move, but I guess he's not aware of it either. I don't know.
Yeah, but still, I don't know why, but like I was just trying to think of like what are some things that scared me, and I have such a clear memory of the Carbonite scene just scaring the crap out of me when I was a boy. So,
all right,
that's my getting into scariness.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
My next one, we actually talked about it last time, so I was like, I don't know if I want to put it on here or not.
Okay.
But we had a Vader one that we did.
The best Vader moments.
Yeah, which I think there's a lot of like really good Vader moments. This one I think is one of the scariest Vader moments because I relate it to being kind of like watching a horror movie and you see like what this monster or whatever thing can do.
Yeah.
It was the Kenobi village.
Yeah.
I think is one of the scary. Like I thought about like the Vader hallway, and I'm like rewatching it because I watched it before when I was doing this list, and like the one guy's like, "Oh help!" Like I'm like, that guy's scared,
It's scary, but it also has, at least for me, it's also like fucking sweet.
Sure, yeah. But like I remember the first time watching the Kenobi village and Vader coming through, and like he just doesn't care. He's grabbing people, dragging. There's people screaming, and I was just like, I can't believe that Disney's doing this. This is so scary, And I think that's a like for a Vader moment, I think it's one of the scariest Vader moments. Like
Agreed.
We talked about like Fallen Order when he shows up, and it's like, oh man, that's it's scary because he's coming and stuff, and you can't do anything about Vader. But this one, you're watching what he does, and he does not care, and no one here can do anything. Yeah. And
this is the only time that you see him, and he's not like he's just being cruel. Like. Yeah, he has a reason he's doing it. He almost always has a reason that he does those things. But this one's like the most cruel. It's not like I'm taking out this guy because he's incompetent. It's like I'm torturing these people to draw out a Jedi.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. I didn't put it on my list just because, like we said, we talked about it last week. It's the only reason it's not on there. But it would be if I hadn't recently talked about it.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. And Nexus is right. Yeah, the woman screaming on Mapuzo as she's being dragged is blood curdling.
It is.
Yeah. I'm gonna go to Star Wars: The Clone Wars, Aaron, and I'm going to go with something that I think is frightening, for different reasons than just like fear, is Spider Leg Mall.
Oh,
I find Spider Leg Mall to be terrifying. Maybe more terrifying if it was in live action. You know,
I get you.
Having that movement on like a live action thing would be even crazier. You know, animation can kind of soften the blow of fear for me. But just the idea and the state that he's in, and we know how long it's been. It's been 10 years. He's been in this state for 10 years, you know. The craziness, the manic episodes that Sam Witwer like performs as him, you know. You know, like it's a scary moment. It's also a moment that is very loaded for a lot of people because a lot of people are anticipating, oh my God, we saw Maul in the crystal ball and he's coming back and he's not dead from episode 1. It's going to be sweet, right? And then it's just, he comes out and he's a Spider-Man, you know?
Yeah.
It's also something from Legends, a design from Legends that I also enjoyed. But I just, I think I was trying to find some good Clone Wars representation, and I thought that would be a good one. Crazy Spider Leg Maw, I find quite terrifying.
I had that one at number 3.
Damn, was that the one that you think was on my list?
Nope.
Damn it.
Nope, that's not the one I didn't think was on your list.
That's your number 3, though.
That was my number 3. No, I really enjoyed that one, too.
Yeah.
Not so much even showing him, but, like, in that moment, you have Savage, who's been dropped in this hole, right? And he's, like, walking through. He doesn't know exactly where he's at. And just, like, you get little shadow glimpses, and it's, like, you know, moving away. And it's that build-up. It's one of those kind of moments that I know Melanie hates because it's, like, what is coming and what's around the corner and what am I going to see? And then you get to see him, and then it's like what is this? What is left of this man, kind of thing. Madness. And then you get into you get into a little bit more of a psychological thing.
That's what goes on in here. That's hard.
But everything before that of him, before he even sees him being down in there, I think it's just a scary moment of like because he's looking for his brother, but that snake just betrayed him, and I don't think he necessarily knows exactly where he's at, you know, or what is down here with him, you know. So like. I didn't necessarily know what we were going to find right away when we were down there. I knew he was looking for his brother, but this felt like, I forget what he says. Say hello to the beast. I don't know what he says to him, but something like that.
It's time for my leftovers.
Yeah, when he comes back, he says that part. So, no, I thought that one was a real, like, scary moment, especially from Clone Wars.
Definitely. Okay. Well, what's your next one then?
My next one was from Mandalorian. It is the frog episode when they get stuck in the ice cavern.
You're talking about... Chapter 10, The Passenger.
Did you put that on your list too? The being trapped in the ice is already terrifying.
Underground, in a cavern,
right?
Yep.
That's one of your fears, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's terrible. Now toss in little and giant spiders chasing after you.
They're almost exactly the same looking spiders from Rebels. Those ones don't bug me. These ones bug me. They bug me. You know why? They look real. They look like real moving at me. I don't want that.
Rebels doesn't look quite as real because of the cartoon, right?
Yeah.
But these things look like they're chasing the Mandalorian. And then you get back to your ship and you can't go anywhere and they're going to eat you.
Oh, my God. I don't want to be eaten.
Yeah, that's right. That's a fear of yours, right?
I feel like it's a healthy fear that most beings on the planet should have. Not even, like, you know, conscious ones. Because everything gets eaten. That's how we transfer energy.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Sometimes it's cruel. You. But yes, they are the knobby white spiders, Aaron.
Knobby white spiders.
Now, the cool thing about those spiders, so that was, you know, obviously you have the ones that are on the Rebel base one, and they're all based off a concept art piece that Ralph McQuarrie did for Empire Strikes Back. They like that tall head spider thing comes from Ralph McQuarrie's paintbrush. And in Legends, that, you know, a gnarl tree, which like Yoda lives in a gnarl tree on Dagobah. In Legends, the early life cycle of a gnarl tree is that spider.
Oh.
Isn't that nuts?
So like the spider turns into that tree
Yoda
eventually?
lives in an old spider in Legends.
In Legends.
I'm saying Legends is full of crazy stuff.
That's a cool idea, I guess.
It's that thing has been like from a Ralph McQuarrie art piece that never made it into the movie, has been brought into the story 3 separate times. Isn't that kind of cool?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
No. I mean, it's cool. I love it. I love how they reuse Ralph McQuarrie's art. He has great art.
He's responsible for so much, yeah. But yeah, I agree. That one's they're called the Krykna spiders on Adelon, which is the rebel ones.
It's rebel base.
Yeah, and then there was the gnarl tree early phase spiders, and then apparently there's also spice spiders of tall, which are also using that same. But that was a Legends thing as well.
Gotcha.
So, there's 2 Legends things, but
okay.
It's happened a couple of times. But in the Mandalorian, the ice ones, little baby Yoda, it's scary. It's also it has like an element of fantasy too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think Shelob in Lord of the Rings is scary.
Yeah,
but I'm not like insects don't really bother me as much as some other things, So I'm always like, it's scary, it's okay. But when you watch it with someone that like Jancy hates spiders, like it's terrifying.
Yeah,
So
that's a scary thing.
Yeah,
it's so big.
Fear is one of my favorite emotions to contemplate because it's so visceral and it's so different for people.
Yeah.
You know?
Imagine like being afraid of just spiders in general, right? Like they're, this big maybe, or a tarantula is like a bigger, but like now it's bigger than you. How terrifying would that be? It's terrifying.
Yeah. What did you do?
I don't know. Eat it.
Yeah. I mean, look at all the things.
If you're afraid of being eaten, I'm going to eat it, so it's afraid of me.
Like it gave so many ways to kill. It was given so many ways to kill you. Like, what do I got? Fist?
Your teeth.
Am I gonna bite it?
Yes. Do
the
that.
Spider?
Bite it.
I think it's gonna bite me first.
It might, but get on the back. You can't bite its butt. I don't know. All right. Is it you or me next then?
I believe it's me.
All right.
I'm going to go with because we did do that one, so you've picked some of mine. I'm gonna go. This is an interesting one. I do find this actually quite terrifying. Palpatine's ability to hide in plain sight. Now this is less this is less horror and more like, hey, this type of stuff happens.
Okay.
Like Palpatine is the devil, and he can sit in a room with the angels, and you have no idea he's there.
Okay.
Like scary. The scariest things for me are the unknown. It's like a horror movie is most scary before they reveal what the secret is, So it's just when I think about leaders or mentors in my life, like especially with Anakin. Like Anakin is a slave. He has a slave's mentality. No one cares about him, and what you have is yours, and you have to defend it fiercely, And someone like Palpatine can take such an innocent outlook and warp it to become a fascist monster, a zombie, if you will. Like I find that to be terrifying because it's the most, I feel like, common threat that George Lucas is like, hey, look out for that. Like people will lie to you, people will steal from you. They'll do that, and you won't even notice. You won't even know until it's too late. And sometimes some of us don't even get that far.
Sure, yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
But like Palpatine's ability he's the most powerful character like in the galaxy, and he can just confidently sit in front of the other most powerful person in the galaxy, and you'll never know.
Mm-hmm.
I find that to be like more terrifying than spiders to me.
Okay.
I get what
you mean.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the idea of serial killers can just be walking around and you don't know they're a serial killer kind of thing, right? Like it's one of those kind of ideas. Like
every vicious dictator in the world had people that supported them and thought like they have really good ideas. Like they're not going to go that far, right? Of course they wouldn't go that far. It's like, hey, they went that far and they used you to get there. It's like what's that feeling? Like I find that feeling to be terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Like stuff like that like fuels my skepticism. Where I'm like, do you want to support a candidate? It's like as much as I can, but what if they're Palpatine?
What if they're Palpatine? Who knows? All right. No. Okay. I get what you mean then.
Mm-hmm. I find that to be horrifying. That's mine.
Well, my next one can kind of go with that.
Okay.
It is, you're talking about like when the things you don't know until now you know what it is. Mm-hmm. Mine is from Empire Strikes Back, and it is the Wampa, where especially the original version. Later on, you get more viewing points of what it looks like. But in the original one, things are so fast. It's hands, it's bodies. You hear the eating. You see the stuff it's eating. Like there's
like a mass of red.
Yeah, like there's just like this, like what exactly is this creature, and it kind of plays a lot on that idea of like what are you picturing with this. Later on, they kind of come back and they give you more of like what a Wampa looks like. But I think like even building up to seeing what it is, there's so many aspects of like glimpses into this creature, and Luke's just stuck in this another ice thing, and trying to escape and can't, and then it's coming at you, and you can't do anything. You have to hurry up and get out, and luckily he has the force.
You know the canon reason how Wampa sticks him to the ceiling?
Spit.
Yeah, it's a combination of hot breath and frozen spit. Yeah. You know, don't eat me. Eat something else, you know? Jesus.
What do you mean? It's an ice planet. There's not much to eat. He was already eating the tauntaun, I think.
He was eating the tauntaun. He was saving Luke for later.
Yeah.
He's keeping him fresh.
Well, he was like a snack. He was a little.
Yeah.
Little
no, that's terrifying. Anything they eat to is scary.
I guess so, yeah. Like, you're right, Gonk. It is scary.
But we got some spider art sent to us by Nexus. Is that what you're wanting? Is that what you're wanting, Gonk? The spider art?
Spider art. Look at that. That is.
Yeah, cool.
That is gnarly.
That is super gnarly. Yeah.
Is that what turns into the gnarl tree?
Maybe.
This gnarly spider.
Yeah. Gotcha. That's the spice spider of Toll.
Oh.
But you can see the big head. You know,
okay.
It's the same shape.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So
yeah, Empire, Wampa. I think it's scary. I think even like going into times, I think a Wampa just in general is scary. Like playing Shadows of the Empire, there's some Wampas that show up there. Every time a Wampa I had to deal with a Wampa, it's just scary. I think any time I've ever been in like a Star Wars game and had to deal with a Wampa, it's scary. Like Jedi.
Yeah.
Like if there's something Wampa or Wampa-like, it's a scary thing to have to fight.
It definitely is. And I hate their sounds. Like that has that distant thing is fuck, man.
So, but yeah, Wampas.
Okay. I will raise you. This will
okay.
be my last fear of consumption, being consumed. I don't have.
Do I have any more fears of consumption? I don't really have any more fears. Maybe one.
Yeah, mine is the Sarlacc pit.
Oh.
The Sarlacc pit can digest you for 1,000 years. And you might say, well, I mean, I'll die before that, and my body will, I guess, not. But no, that thing, like, takes your mind and and brings it into its hive mind, and you are aware of those 1,000 years.
That sounds terrible.
It's terrible.
I know it did that. I thought I was just sitting there and just slowly being digested. Like,
I was thinking about this, and I rewatched the opening of Book of Boba Fett. And the Book of Boba Fett, because I went into it knowing that I'm seeing this because he has to get out of this. I know when I'm watching it, it's like, no big deal. He's going to get out of this thing. And he does, you know? But in a rewatch, I have to just kind of sit there and be like, what would this be like? Because he got out pretty quick in the show. In Legends, he went in there a couple times. And there was one time he was in there for like 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah.
Dang.
5 years, dude. Like,
don't go in there anymore.
But again, it's that feeling of like, you know, compression at all points, you know, being like stuck, being digested, your energy being stolen from you to fuel something else, you know. It's just it's such a primal fear that I have, and I feel like the Sarlacc is like the worst one. Because I mean, you know, in our world, what's the worst thing that's going to eat you? Like a bear, maybe, because they don't care if you're alive or not, you know, like that sucks.
It's like the idea of the Wampa. The Wampa's going to eat you, but like you're going to get eaten and it's done.
But it's not going to last a week. It's not going to last a fortnight. It's not going to last a millennia.
No.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't.
Right?
Okay. No.
Yeah. So
I mean, if I'm aware of that, that makes it so much more worse.
Yeah, it's real bad. But I was looking up. I'm like, I remember reading about this. Like, yeah, that thing actually, it's not that your body stays there for 1,000 years. Your mind does too. And you're aware, and you become part of the Sarlacc.
Dang. Do you get to take over a tentacle or anything?
I don't think so.
That'd be nice.
I
want my own tentacle.
I think it literally uses your consciousness to give itself consciousness.
I'm going to give him indigestion if he doesn't give me at least a tentacle.
Yeah. What's it even need energy for? All it does is eat.
Well, and it's just a hole.
It's just a hole.
I guess it digs down looking for like, I don't know what it does. I don't know.
What net good does it do for the...
It goes deep, right?
It's Tatooine, you know? This ain't doing anything for the environment.
No.
Sand everywhere.
I don't know.
And as we know, sand sucks.
It does.
Of course, it's irritating. It gets everywhere.
All right.
Sarlacc pit.
Well, my last, I think, digesting related one then, is also from Empire.
Ooh.
Which is, you know where I'm going now?
Maybe.
Yeah. It is when we're looking for the Minox.
Minox, okay.
Right? There's the Minox. First
I
off,
thought you were talking about Yoda's food.
no, not Yoda's food.
Minox.
The Minox already give like a jump scare, right? Inside the Falcon. It was like, they do that and just, go away, you things.
Yeah.
You know, there's that whole thing. And there's this scary, like people don't, people are afraid of bats and flying things in general.
They're so big.
And they're so freaky and scary and stuff too.
I hate that one. It's just like a massive, like, oh my god! And it's just a shot of just like a crew member just hitting somebody with wings. Oh man!
But like they go out and like it's when they get outside there and they're looking for the Minox and it's like foggy and weird and
Ground
creepy
feels
and
weird.
stuff too.
Doesn't feel like rock.
And then you find out that you're inside something even worse than Minox that are in here.
There's no cave.
Yeah. Like I think
that's pretty scary.
I think the Minox jump scare is great. I think the Minox is just a scary looking kind of creature, especially how big they are. But then the fact that you're inside something else is also just terrible. Like you're already in there.
Yeah.
You thought you were safe. Mm-hmm. You went in here to get cover, and now you're gonna get eaten.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has like the action adventure tone to it because John Williams saw that scene and was like, "This is fun," But like John Williams could have had a bad day and be like, "This is scary." And that could have been
imagine
way worse.
giving it a different, different soundtrack.
Yeah, dude.
Doom, doom.
The Exogorth.
Doom, doom. You're already in the monster, and you don't even know it.
All right, I like that one. That's a good one.
That was my next one.
Okay.
I should be done with digestion now. So.
All right, I'm also done with original trilogy and prequel trilogy. So I'm gonna go to the Decraniated. Do you know what the Decraniated is?
I don't know what you're saying.
This is something that I discovered in the Rogue One source book when I was studying for the Schmodown.
Okay.
Now, our good boy, Dr. Cornelius Evison. He is, I have the death, sentence in 12 systems.
Sure.
Do you know why he has the death sentence in 12 systems?
I assume he killed some people and did some bad stuff.
So what he does is he kidnaps people, chops off the top of their head, including their brain, and replaces it with droid parts, and then sells you to someone as a human droid.
What?
Those are the Decraniated. And there's a couple walking around in Rogue One on Jeddah, and it's horrifying to look at. It's just people, which is like a lady with no top of the head. And like there's also a couple on...
This is like worse than Lobot.
This is terrible. This is way worse than Lobot. Lobot is like sweet, I bet you get some dates. He's a good looking dude. Like this lady has no eyes. They have like a sensor. And they don't have like the top of a droid head. They have no top of the head.
Okay.
The Decraniated.
So they're just flat?
Yeah. It sucks. There's a couple of them on the First Light Dryden Voss's yacht and Solo as well.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dude, it's like Evison sucks. And Ponda Bomb, I judge him for hanging out with him.
So he is a doctor.
He's a doctor.
Huh. No, I've not heard that. I don't think we've ever talked about it. Out of all the times we've talked about things, and that could have came up, and you didn't bring it up. I'm so glad we talked about scary stuff, and you just came up.
Close to the vest in
just
case.
For this.
No, because when you... This is a Schmodown thing. I talked about this with other Schmodown Star Wars contestants. You want an opportunity to say your craziest trivia that you have in your head. But when you talk about it, then people are going to remember it. So you want to keep that for whenever the guy that writes the questions comes across that.
Ain't no one's going to write about Decraniated people.
Yeah. So you don't talk about that much. But the Decraniated are terrible. And they're in both Rogue One and Solo. And it's under the radar.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So we get him in A New Hope, and then retroactively,
here's a picture.
We go back. So that's what he did. So that's illegal.
Yes. Yeah. What do you mean? Yes. Her head's gone. This is illegal.
I don't know the story of that. That was just like some thing, Maybe it's like, hey, you know what? This is an upgrade. Maybe you know what? This person died, and I want to keep their body around. I don't know.
He is a slaver that just cuts everything out of you that is independent.
Okay.
Yeah. He's terrible. And you know how you watch Rogue One, you're like, hey, it's Dr. Evison and Ponda Bamba. Hey, I see him there. You know what they're there for? Real bad shit.
They're Decraniated.
Yeah, they're there to wipe up what's left of Jeddah.
So like one guy's going and like kidnapping people, and then he's doing the surgeries. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
He's involved.
Imagine if they got Luke.
I'm glad they cut off his arm.
wasn't there. Like they might have done that to Luke.
Huh.
Yeah. Scary stuff, man. The unknown.
He wouldn't even need a blast shield down then.
He wouldn't be able to put it on his head.
Yeah. Interesting.
It'd be over his mouth.
All right. Yep. That is a scary thing.
Yep.
I did not know that.
There you go.
All right. Hey, there's that serial killer plain sight thing every time.
Yes, there is. Exactly.
All right.
Yeah, she didn't volunteer for it, Aaron.
I was just wondering. I don't know. Whenever you see things, I'm like, that guy looks weird. But you know what? I don't know why he has a fish bowl on his head or anything. You know, I don't know what's going on. Why is that guy in the cantina wearing an astronaut suit? You know, I don't know. Maybe he just likes it.
Like, I imagine Lobot, like, is kind like, because you can like send messages to him. He'll get like a text and be like, oh shit, I got a text, and he'll you know, but he still feels like he does stuff. He doesn't feel like he's a slave that is programmed like what Dr. Evanson does.
No, he doesn't.
At least I hope not, because he's sweet.
Okay. All right. Though I did hear about like some terrible things that originally happened to Lobot after Empire.
Oh, yeah?
Like in some older things where it's like, well, he goes and he helps Lando, but he gets captured. And like, I think it was like a comic or something like that. Like, I think it's Legends, where he's like hooked up to a whole bunch of wires. It really gave me like an Echo feel of like they took him and hooked him up and were doing things with him like that. And that's pretty crazy. All right. My next one is the one that I don't think you're going to have on your list. This is the one I'm like, any of these could be on the list. Spiders, wampas, you know, mall spiders.
I mean,
stuff.
I have one that I didn't think you'd have on your list.
Oh, yeah? With the craniating?
No. You could have looked that up.
I could have. I wouldn't have typed it in.
Okay, where's yours? I'll say where mine's from.
Mine's from A New Hope.
Mine's from the High Republic. Okay, go ahead.
Yours might be, I have like 3 honorable mentions. Mine's from A New Hope, and it is Leia's interrogation.
The ITO droid?
I hate that droid. I hate it all the time, and I'm glad they cut away and shut the door, you know? Like, it's kind of in the same sense, like, I can watch Han get shocked and whatnot when he's getting, like, tortured and that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You can watch that.
Like, the scream's great. I hate that droid comes, and I hate anytime that droid shows up.
You don't even see it go in the skin.
I know, I don't. But, like, that's a scary, like, if I was there, and one, you're going to get, we're going to figure this out, and you're going to talk, and you're going to tell us stuff.
Yeah.
And to do that, we're going to inject you with this giant needle. It's such a big needle, too.
It's so big, and it's floating on a basketball.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
if I
this.
punch that thing, that's going flying. You know?
Yeah. How steady is it?
I don't think it's that
steady. You know, I don't want it.
I think if Vader accidentally, like, hit it, it would, like, hit against the wall and then stab a stormtrooper in the back of the neck.
I always think that George Lucas cut away and shut the door, and we don't get to see what happens in there, because I did not want to see it.
Good stuff, man.
Because I mean, we talk about, like, people being afraid of spiders. Like, this is that thing. This is for me. And I didn't put it all the way to the top because I'm like, well, this is my fear.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're like, I'm going to get eaten or get stuck in a cave. Like, this one's mine. But I'm like, okay, there's scarier things, I think, for more general people.
Sure.
I don't think this is that scary for most people.
Agreed.
But it's my number 5.
Yeah. That's a good one. So mine is it's from the High Republic. I think it's from Rising Storm. And part of what I think makes good horror or good scariness, at least for me, because again, like, I don't get like really scared when I watch something, but if a character is afraid, like, I can really relate to that, you know, like, as long as like the characters feel it, I'm like, I don't need, it doesn't matter if it scares me, I can empathize with this person, you know. And I don't remember what the name of the thing is, but like whatever that thing is at the end of Rising Storm that appears and just like drives Force users crazy, like that thing, like we don't even know about it yet.
Sure,
but like that, reading that, and understanding what the Great Leveler, that's what they called it in there. Yeah, but like what the characters describe was so overwhelming and something I wasn't feeling, you know. I was just like, no, this is what I'm feeling though. And these characters are like the most heroic and brave characters that appear in the thing. And then they're utterly terrified by this eldritch horror, you know?
Yeah, whatever this thing is.
And I said before, like, sometimes I think things are scarier when I don't know what they are yet, when it hasn't been explained. Right now, as someone that's just read The Rising Storm, I'm terrified of that thing. I don't want to see it again. I don't want it to come around any of the characters that I love. You know,
keep it away.
Yeah, I have true fear in my ignorance of it.
Sure.
So I'm kind of relishing of like where I am right now. As soon as I read the next thing and understand that more, I'm sure it'll be less terrifying. But right now, it's very terrifying.
Sure. Like the Death Star, I understand what it does. Let's go blow it up, get rid of it. But that thing, I don't know what it is. I don't understand what it does.
It made Elzar Mann like mess up. That dude doesn't mess up.
No.
So that's definitely one of them for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a really good one. It's a scary moment. It's a especially for us right now. It is a not understanding what exactly this terrifying creature thing is, because we have that. Yeah, this one. We have an image of what it looked like from when we did the book, and it's a scary looking eldritch monster thing. And I don't know how it works or what it does, but
like even like the image, like, the image is scary. But what was scary for me was because you're reading a novel, you're inside characters' heads all the time. This thing invaded their heads, you know, and that's always scary. Much like Chewbacca and
the Life Day in the book. Yeah.
I did have one honorable mention. I don't find it scary as much as I do like incredibly sad and just hard to think about. Is Dr. Gorst from Andor. He's an Imperial doctor, and he talks about how he has the Dizonite people.
Okay.
They are like a very choral, musical people, and he recorded when the Empire completely destroyed their planet. He recorded clips of their children pleading for their lives before they died. And he then uses that as psychological torture to torture other people that aren't even part of that species. It's just the sound is so sad, so heartbreaking, and so horrifying. You can just listen to that and it'll crack you.
Mm-hmm.
That's terrifying. And while I don't necessarily think of it as scary in my head, just like someone thought that up.
Yeah.
You know, like that's just... Dr. Gorse is a terrifying person to think that was a good idea. So he's my honorable mention on my scary list. Like in terms of like, you know, what can that doctor himself do? Palpatine can do a lot. The Leveler can do a lot. You know, the Wampa can do a lot. But Dr. Gorse is on my list, at least honorable mention for how terrible of an idea he had. That is extremely.
It's a terrible idea. I hate that. I wouldn't even record that.
Yeah. And it's his tone of voice. He's like so proud and like happy that he's like, I do science.
I'll go with my next one for Rebels.
Okay.
Which is I don't remember the exact episode. I should have wrote it down, but it is the Night Sister spirits. When we go in and they're doing like possession and they're attacking, and it's all about like trying to protect. I think it's Kanan and Sabine.
Yeah.
And then Ezra's also in there too. I just think that the Night Sisters in general are scary.
Yeah.
I think like I think it would be really scary to fight a whole bunch of undead Night Sisters, but I really liked when they showed up because it was Grievous and I wanted them to win, you know? Yeah. Like there's so many things that like Mother Talzin does and it's just like scary and witchy and stuff too. But this is them as like spirits. Like I thought about also like when Talzin popped out of your chest and just giving you boils and stuff too. And
I get you.
That would be terrifying and stuff too, you know. But like I have to wrong them. This is like I've wandered into this location with like another guy, and now these sisters are gonna possess my friends and try to escape and stuff, you know. And I thought was a terrifying thought and a terrifying moment.
I like that.
And also, like I said, I was wanting to also look at like what's everything down there, what's scary from everywhere, you know.
That's a good one. I like that.
And I wanted Night Sisters somewhere. I just didn't know what Night Sisters I wanted.
Gotcha. All right. I mean, I'm out of my options.
Are you?
I've done all mine. I also have. It should be scary, but it's not to me because we ruined it. Borglet.
Melanie, I talked to Melanie about this because, like, who knows scary Star Wars? I'm going to ask Melanie, what scared you in Star Wars? And she brought up that, which I'm like, man, you know, it should be because it's what it does to your mind and stuff, and the creatures just...
What it did to the pilot. Like, he was never the same after Borglet, you know?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, no, that one should have been, but it didn't make my list either.
I have too much pleasure going Borglet with you guys. And then Calvin went up to the actor and was like,
write this.
Yeah, what's your favorite? What do you want me to write?
What quote do you want me to write?
Can you write Borglet? Borglet? Okay, I'll write Borglet.
It's like
Forrest Whitaker's so cool.
Man, you said Borglet.
Yeah,
cool.
Borglet. I wrote Borglet. Forrest Whitaker.
Well, my last, I have, what? You said this one.
Yeah.
So I have my honorable mentions in my last two.
Okay, yeah.
I guess I can mention real quick.
Yeah.
But we already mentioned this one too, which was the Ahsoka Death Trooper rising thing. I just considered it like Death Trooper kind of thing.
Death Troopers, yeah.
Them rising. like I think it's Sabine who's like just shooting one in the face and it just keeps coming after her. And I'm like, that would be a terrifying moment there of like we beat them all and they got back up.
Yeah. Yep. It's a good one.
The Mind Worms from Clone Wars was another one. So honestly, both of these ones are really Death Troopery.
Yeah, very much
for the most part. I don't know if it's so much the Obi-Wan one when they're down in Geonosis and you see what's happening with it, or if it's, I think more so the Ahsoka one when she's stuck on that one ship and it's just her and Barriss. And it's the clones getting taken over. And that moment there I think is like we're trying to survive on a ship. You're seeing clones like this clone is good and you watch him get taken over and then he's not himself anymore and just like losing you, and then now it's like I'm trying to fight and save you, but I don't know what to do. Like those things, I think is a scary moment there.
It definitely has some moments of being scared, especially like down in the crypts, like when you have the Geonosian zombies. Like that's pretty scary. There's always a part of me that just always like enjoys it so much because it's a good excuse to have like Barriss and Ahsoka fight.
Yeah,
that type of thing. But then eventually we won't need that excuse anymore.
Yeah. And then the last things I have, I was more so looking because I didn't know what things you'd have, and in fact we'd have a lot of overlap and stuff too. But I guess my honorable mentions were Return of the Jedi with the Rancor, especially like working the same way with the Wampa. Whenever you drop the Twi'lek down in, and you just hear the screams and stuff, and you never get to see what happens.
I hate the inside of the Rancor's mouth because it's just you can't like see the hole, which it's still like it's like a crocodile. It's like the only way you're going down there is if it's like you get forced down.
Just to push you into it.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Okay, sorry.
Phantom Menace, the Bombo breaking, and monster's back. Yeah. Just being down in there, like stuck. Like that was one of Melanie's things. She's like, that would be terrifying to be in a sub, being stuck in the dark. You can't see. You know.
There's always a bigger fish. It's scary. I mean, it's fun to watch, but it would be horrifying to experience.
I would be so scared.
Yeah.
Like they're Jedi. Yeah. Like there's like, we do this stuff all the time.
It is the destiny of a Jedi to confront fear. I get it.
Yeah. But
I
would not want
to never come back to Naboo.
Yeah. It's like this is one of those things like why don't you go through the planet core? Like look at all this stuff.
Like they go out to Lake Country and it's like beautiful and freaking Padme's like, "Oh, we used to swim out to this island and lay in the sand." I'm like, "You swam?
Do you know what's in the water? Do you know what's in the water?
Do you know what's there? You fool!"
And then my last one is the only one I have from a book, which was the Drengir.
High Republic Drengir. Meat.
Yeah. Which I think like just
I thought of them when I was thinking of the Leveler.
I don't know if I have a specific moment per se of that, but like maybe even one of the first times we meet them and stuff too, and trying to get an idea of who they are. But like they're just a scary creature, Like I hate like they just want to eat. They keep coming back, Like you have to kill them so specifically. Yeah. Most things are not like that, and this is so. Yeah. I think they're one of the scarier things in Star Wars too.
I think it's a good one. What would you say? Are you through your list?
That's everything on my list.
So, like, do you now that you've talked through everything and that type of thing, do you have like this is my number one, or is it still where you started?
Originally, I put the Mind Worms at my number one.
Yeah.
Just because like losing yourself, like being taken over by something else, whether you're killed or not, like if you can be saved, that's great. But like if you can, I think what's worse is like if you can realize what's going on, but you have no control of it. I think that's a really terrifying thing.
Yeah.
But if you're not, and you're like, Ahsoka's fighting so much of like, do I kill these people? Do I not kill these people? What do I do? But they just keep spreading and taking over and adding more worms, and it's just, I think that's a real scary element of it.
Yeah.
And needles.
The ITO droid.
Don't like it.
All right. I think mine, now that I'm looking through all my lists again, considering yours, I mean, the Andor Dr. Gore stuff is horrifying, but
that's terrible. Decraniating is awful
for me. Yeah.
If I was getting kidnapped and my head was getting cut off and turned into a robot, I would hate it.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't because I would be dead, but I would hate it before, maybe during, if I have any.
And that's the thing, like
memory.
They are effectively dead, but they're not.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you have a relative that's brain dead. It's like, oh, it sucks. Like, I can pull the plug. It's like, or you could sell me their body and I'll turn them into a willing slave. No, thanks, Doc.
Let's not do that.
I only got 10 death sentences. I'm fine.
Yeah, right.
I'm giving you 2 more.
All
right.
Well, that's some of our scariest things that we've found in Star Wars, guys. I do want to mention Jorge here.
Yeah.
with $5 said the scariest thing in my opinion is Battlefront 2's Ewok hunt. Makes me feel sorry for the stormtroopers. Also, Ewok hunt Scream Stream. It is fun and kind of scary.
It is, but it's so in contrast to how fun it is to be the Ewoks.
Yeah,
in that game mode.
But when you're the stormtroopers, it's kind of scary.
It's kind of scary,
know?
dude. Yeah.
Oh man.
I mean, we have to remember the Ewoks were going to eat Luke and Han and Chewie.
Mm-hmm.
And R2.
I don't know what was going on.
Anyway, they were going to eat him. They were going to eat Leia, and they weren't going to eat 3PO. So if we accept that as fact, which it is, and we know that at the end of the Battle of Endor, there are
tons of empty helmets,
hundreds or thousands of dead stormtroopers, and yes, we see their empty helmets. They make a satisfying noise when you touch it. It means their head's not in there. What happened to those heads, Aaron? What happened to those bodies, Aaron? Do you think the Ewoks just throw food away? I don't think so.
Well, they were like,
I think that they beat the Empire and ate their corpses.
What if they just picked up? You know, this would make a real good drum. You know,
I mean,
like in Fortnite,
I respect that.
In Fortnite, the drum has helmets on it.
Yeah,
like
and
in the Star Wars drum.
You know when the best time the drum is after you're done eating the forearm. You know, I don't because those Ewoks they eat you, and that's scary, and they're cute too. I don't want cute things eating me.
That'd be the worst thing.
Yeah. Like a little baby Ewok comes out, starts eating you too.
That'd be great. Yep. All right, guys. Well, if there's any other questions, Gonk, we will have to hit up those for the next few minutes because we're almost out of time already because we've talked so much about everything else.
No, we're getting them all.
Getting to them all.
Right, rapid fire, and I can do it.
Varun says, out of all the books you've read, what has been your favorites?
I like Master and Apprentice quite a bit.
I
don't know if you're talking about like ones that we've done on Badonkagonk or like Ever. If you're talking about Ever, I quite like Darth Plagueis, and I really like the Breath of the New Jedi Order series, but that's like 19 books. So
yeah, Ever I liked Revan a lot.
Yeah.
Lately, like I did really like Death Troopers. I like Brotherhood a lot.
Brotherhood's great.
And I think Master and Apprentice was also another one that I really liked. But I think Brotherhood was a higher one for me.
Yeah. And the more I get away from it, the more I realize how much Light of the Jedi really worked for me.
Yeah. Logan Malice said, in my opinion, one of the scariest things in Star Wars is Mortis and the Witches of Dathomir. Just the idea of these unknowable Force gods and whatever is going on in the new galaxy is kind of terrifying.
Yeah, with Perdia. Knowing that they are from outside the galaxy, and whether it's legends or canon, like knowing that people like Palpatine and Thrawn fear what's on the edges and outside the galaxy it makes for good stuff, good horror, and I love the designs in live action of the witches. My favorite thing about them is that they're constantly blowing in the wind, but no one else is.
Yeah,
you know, it's so cool. It's like Sarah from Chuck.
Yep.
But scary.
Where'd that wind come from?
Yeah, right.
Joe T says, have you guys read the Death Troopers prequel, Red Harvest?
Nope.
We have not, and maybe we can check that out at some point.
Maybe.
I did have fun with this book.
Yeah, me too.
Double Nickel said, I listened to this audiobook several years ago. I don't actually recall much except going, holy crap, repeatedly.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely some moments when they have to remove the leg of Kale. Yeah. It was like, I was like, damn, they do this. Let's go with Jesse, who says, did you know when this came out, one of the things they did for this was having a Twitter account tweet from a point of view of a trooper stationed on the ship when the outbreak first broke out.
Oh, that's cool marketing.
That's a really neat idea.
Yeah.
Like, hey guys, everything going good here?
Yeah.
You know? I might go get some lunch. Man, there's a lot of coughing going on.
Yeah, I wonder if that's compiled somewhere. That would be cool to check out all these years later. Because this was 2008 or something like that. Like, it's not that far away from Revenge of the Sith when it came out.
Really?
Yeah. And I knew, I was looking it up. I don't know if you saw it. This takes place, it also took place 1 year before A New Hope.
1 year before New Hope.
What
Okay.
It was supposed to be.
All right.
Which I thought was, I actually saw that before I started reading the book, and I kept it in my mind, especially when Han showed up, because I was like, you know, there was times where it's like, we have to go save the doctor. It's like, we're leaving her, and I'm like, hey, he does that. He likes to leave chicks.
Yeah. No,
to me.
when I was watching, when I was listening to it, I was debating on what the time frame was a little bit,
Gotcha.
and then I'm like, okay, well, we're before A New Hope.
Yeah.
I did like a few times whenever they were talking about Vader
in his army. Yeah.
Yeah, and talking about different things with that. One guy's like, "What was it like to see Vader? So he's so tall."
Yeah.
But you also get cold.
Yeah, I like that part.
Like being in the Star Destroyer. Like I was like, "Ooh, that's."
I like
cool.
that part where he's like, it's cold, and you just. I think of Ezra every time I hear that.
Yeah.
Cold.
I feel cold.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's cool.
Pure CBR says, second question that I have, I think I missed your first question. Do you think we'll ever see Cortosis armor in live action again?
I hope so. I mean, it's such a cool thing that's been introduced. I mean, it's in canon in the Thrawn book that we read, right? There's like Cortosis droids.
Yeah.
And then obviously it's in the Acolyte.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you don't want to overuse it. You don't want I want to say you don't want head to toe armor made of Cortosis, Mandalore, that type of thing.
I think I would, but not as like it's a continuous ongoing thing all the time. It's something
I chuckled because in Jedi Outcasts, my favorite Star Wars game, there are fully head to toe Cortosis shadow troopers that are Nazi youths that are given crystals, they give them the Force, and that stuff that makes it hard to kill them.
Oh.
And Kyle Katarn has to learn techniques to cut through Cortosis,
Oh.
It's cool stuff.
Okay.
But
I think
you wouldn't want that all the time, everywhere,
no.
maximize.
I wouldn't want that.
Type of thing.
But like you said with the book where it's like there are Cortosis droids, a factory, they're going to be making this. And it's like, okay, well, that's a problem. We should deal with this. I like that being like a problem in a book or a show or whatever that we have to deal with. But yeah, I wouldn't want just like, well, now Cortosis just shows up everywhere, you know?
It's got to be like Beskar. Beskar is extremely rare and extremely, it's like a holy relic almost to the Mandalorians. So they're going to defend it like hardcore.
Like I liked in Acolyte where it's like I have a bracer and a helmet. Yeah. You know, I can't defend my entire body with it.
I've never seen anyone do a Cortosis helmet that they would hit a lightsaber with. Like, I never would have thought of that. I don't think anybody ever would have thought of it. Whoever was responsible for that did a great thing.
Garrison in the question says, what is your opinion on Dagobah as a scary setting? I heard from some friends that they actually feel uncomfortable and scared by Dagobah in Empire Strikes Back, which surprised me. Yeah. I never found it scary. What are your opinions? Well, we are here.
We are here on Dagobah.
So we picked that because it's kind of a scare. I think that it is.
Yeah.
I think it's similar to Trash Compactor when I was talking about like what's under the water.
Sure.
You know, when R2 falls in and you just get that. There's a lot of like this place. There's the tree. Right, the cave.
The Cave of Evil.
There's that where it's like, it seems so mysterious and creepy and scary. So like when you go into it, things get mysterious, creepy, and scary. You know. Yeah. But no, I think like Dagobah swamps. I think just that general fogginess and stuff. Like it's a creepy, scary looking place. And I remember as a kid there was I think it was Muppet Babies. Right?
Muppet Babies.
I think it was Muppet Babies, which they redid Muppet Babies more recently, and it's a little bit more updated. This was like older Muppet Babies.
I remember Muppet Babies, yeah.
And there was something where like, I remember them doing, and it was like a Yoda far away, be like, go home, you know, and you just see Dagobah real far out, and it's like, I ain't going in there. You know, as a kid, I'm like, that place is, no, that's not for me.
For me, it's the unknown. Like, I don't know what the dragon snake looks like, but I saw just his hump, and then it ate R2. And then, luckily, R2 is metal, and he spits him out. But, like, that thing would be scary. I don't want to be there, you know? I would say, like, I think Dagobah is kind of an example of, like, don't judge a book by its cover, much like Yoda is.
Yeah.
You know? Like, you can find peace and serenity in a place like this because you can find peace and serenity anywhere if you are properly balanced. You know? If you if you're balanced and go into the Cave of Evil, you very well might not encounter anything.
Yeah,
you know?
Sure. I mean, as long as you're not, like Luke is facing Vader, which he also is having to face himself a little bit.
Yeah,
and
but he went in looking for Vader because he put his blaster and his lightsaber on.
Yeah.
Yoda's like, don't do that.
If he wouldn't have done that, what would he have seen instead, you know? I mean, or what would have happened differently?
He didn't find balance, but he probably wouldn't have found, like, conflict so quickly.
Sure.
You know? Because ultimately what he finds in there is a dark reflection of himself, not his fear of Vader or his fear of his friends. It's a fear of
him falling to the dark side or
what
something,
can happen
right?
to you if you don't live up to this.
Well, especially when you have Obi-Wan told me Darth Vader once was a pupil of his until he turned to evil. Can I turn to evil? I was a pupil of Obi-Wan. There can be that fear there that you're taking with you. So,
but then there's like the subtle hint of the Force being like, also, you don't know how close you are. Like, I'm gonna give you a prophecy, and it says, "Face, that's you. You're his son." But instead Luke's like, "Oh, well, I gotta be careful of the dark side." Like, ah.
I'd love to find someone who's like balanced, like not having all those, like what does Yoda see when he goes in there,
Yeah.
Like how balanced is he? Sure. Or like, I don't know.
Well, we can say that we've kind of seen that with Yoda's trip into the wellspring of the Force. He sees a dark version of himself.
Sure. But that's also back then too,
it is back then.
Is he more balanced now or
I don't
not?
think this is why I love the story of Luke Skywalker, Baylan Skoll, characters that don't necessarily make it as amazing, awesome Jedi their whole lives. The dark side needs to be a struggle that never stops. Like, have you defeated the dark side? I have today. I haven't yet tomorrow. And there will be a battle with it tomorrow. Like, it never stops. So a balanced person still has to fight their demons. They just might not have to bring weapons in to do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess I was just thinking about someone walking in that's balanced, and they're just like, just a bunch of dirt.
Oh, Han too.
Yeah, is Han balanced? Would he walk in and be like,
yeah,
I don't understand what you're
afraid of. There's a snake down here. I don't like snakes.
Yeah. So it would be interesting to see what he saw, but
yeah.
All right, guys, I think that's going to be our last question. We are past 5 o'clock.
Thank you so much.
What is the next
book
that we're doing?
We're going to go back to the author E.K. Johnston, and we're going to be checking out the third and final Padme book called Queen's Hope. I've enjoyed the Padme books. This one apparently is in 22 BBY and will go from the end of Attack of the Clones, Aaron. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds cool.
That's what we're going to be checking out next time. I'm not quite sure what the Badonkagonk date is. It's usually something that we have ready, but I'm now realizing we don't.
I do believe it would be on the 21st of November.
November 21st. Okay. So we'll be in the mood for turkey and getting ever closer to Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah, because the 28th is going to be Thanksgiving.
I am super excited for Skeleton Crew while also being super nervous for those kids.
Super nervous for those kids?
Yeah. Just if they have social media presences, people don't know how to react on social media anymore.
I get what you mean. Yeah.
Hopefully they protect them better than they did some of the other actors. I love when Ewan came out for Moses Ingram.
Yeah.
He made that video of his car. I was like, hey, stop, you dummies.
Don't do that.
All right.
All right, guys.
We'll be back next month.
We will be back next month. We hope you guys have a good time and can join us next month for Padme, the final of the trilogy.
Yeah.
But until